It is now, I think. Yep, it is now. I'm just going to go to my YouTube page and find the link to the video, and YouTube is. Oh, here we go. All right, and copy and paste. I guess I'll go to Cherry's previous videos and post it in there. Okay. See here, I had a. See how this works. Oops. Figured I'd play some elevator music while I'm here. Yeah, so the idea behind this was, in case anybody who is or wasn't inside of Cherry's room wants to discuss the topics that we were talking about in any of her previous chat rooms, or even if anybody was watching Brian talking to Abaya last night. I'm just trying to. I have no idea how to get the word out though. I already shared the YouTube link on G+.
They'll come in eventually.
Yeah, I'll share the link on here and here and here. There we go. Now I'll just brush myself up on what we were last discussing. False prophets, part 3. Okay.
God is trying to protect. How about we?
Okay. Okay, so the two last topics was about that Marvin the Martian guy who claims to be every single prophet there ever was, especially the Lamb of God. And then after that, we were talking about the proclamation in churches about homosexuality being defended in the Bible. Now, did you have anything you wanted to add to that you didn't get to?
Sorry, bro. I can't talk right now. I'll talk in a little bit.
Okay. Oh, hey. People are watching. Hi, Andrew. Hi, J-Man. Hi, Haitian. Anybody want to join? Anybody know how to add people to the conversation?
Do you want me to put the link in your YouTube chat? I can do that.
Yeah, sure. But if you could teach me how to, like Cherry says that there's a link to the chat room that gives people moderating abilities. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. She also then says she gives people a guest link, and I'm like, how do you do that? But yeah, if you could help me out, that'd be great, man.
All you do is you click on the conversation that we're having right now. You're gonna click on there's a phone, there's a camera, and right next to it there's 3 dots. You're gonna click on the 3 dots, and
I'm not
it's
seeing
gonna
the phone.
say.
I'm on my computer. I'm not on my cell phone.
Oh, okay. That I'm not sure. Maybe something that says people.
Mm.
Maybe if there's somewhere that shows people, and then you just click on it, and then it'll say you'll turn on joining by link. You have to turn that on, and then once you turn it on,
Like there's a thing here that says links,
yeah. Well, what I can. Oh yeah, click that.
but it gives me a YouTube link, so that's just for people to watch. Okay. It's in here. No. All right. Well, I'm just gonna go with it here. Anybody wants to join? If you got a microphone, hopefully that's not the moderator link, but there you have it. Again, if anybody has something to add or to inquire about in any of Shield Squad's, it doesn't even have to be about Cherry's rooms. Could be about G-Man's rooms, or it could be about Vocab, even though I don't really watch Vocab. Could have been about how Brian leveled the playfield with a Baya last night. Anything. If you guys have something to comment on, to compliment, you guys want to, discuss something, you're welcome to bring that up. Send the link for me in one of the back chats, bro, Remy. I already did.
The link worked, buddy. I got it.
Yeah, no, it's Haitian. She's asking for the link. I already sent it in like 4 of them.
Yeah, click the link. Haitian, click the link.
Yeah. Maybe you're not in those rooms. Could be. I don't know. Hang on a second. You should be.
Well, that's how I got in. I just clicked the link and I'm in.
Right on. Yeah, I shared the link in the Shield Squad chat. Back chat, that is.
Greetings, by the way.
Sorry?
Greetings, by the way.
Okay. Oh, if you're on your phone or something, Haitian Q, not other than sharing the link in the YouTube chat and in the Shield Squad chat, I'm not sure how else I can do it. Oh wait, yeah, hang on a second. Maybe I didn't. Yeah, okay, I'll share it again. There you go. Oh, okay. Or thank you. Okay, you're directing my path. I see. There you go. It'd be great to have somebody to talk to. J-Man, I think, said he'd be back after he's finished what he's doing.
Well, I'm here, so.
Yeah. So how you been, Andrew? I don't think I've ever actually talked with you directly. I know you've been talking with the other brothers and sisters.
Yeah, it was in Vocab's hangout when he was talking to Hugh Ross this morning. Found it rather informative. But, other than that, yeah, had to have a good laugh at old Marvin.
Did you say Hugh Ross just a second ago?
Hey, man, I'll be in at 8. I just go ahead and join the call. I'm going to get my headset and listen in, all right?
All right. Take your time, Brian.
Yeah, Hugh. Vocab was talking to Hugh Ross. Sister QT was in it too this morning. Rather interesting. Well, I thought anyway.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. I wasn't expecting to hear some of the things that I heard, but it was interesting. Vocab has a lot of, sorry about the background noise, but Vocab has a lot of different people that show up to his platform, I've noticed, and he keeps it very interesting, so I really enjoyed it.
He does have some contacts. He knows David Wood, number one, so via that he knows a lot of contacts.
Yeah, well, if you're a celebrity and you're on the radio, I guess you got a lot of contacts. Is Vocab actually on a radio station, or is it just some?
He's got a little thing called Backpack Radio. Turns up every now and again. They did a whole thing called Islamicize Me. So it was David Wood, Voca Malone, and Wadi Mimi.
Yeah,
and that's how they got into that.
But I mean, is that on an FM and AM channel, or is that just a
no? He comes on YouTube and lets it in. He has a patron account, a patron thing that's for patron people only, and he also has ones for free. And the one this morning was for everybody.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just one of the different things. I've always liked Hugh Ross. Don't necessarily entirely agree with him on everything, but certainly knows how to share the gospel with people who are, how shall we say it, unbelievers.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've only ever heard Hugh Ross talk on his supposed nonsensical science in the age of the Earth. And
I have to come.
I'm a young Earth.
I have to come full circle with that one and say, I used to be young Earth. Directly, staunchly on Earth, but don't agree with Ken Ham either. So
yeah, no, I don't let Ken Ham or Kent Hovind or anybody dictate. And I don't. I used to, be constantly quoting them, but Hugh Ross has his major flaws in his doctrine and his ideas of what the old Earth is. Just because he goes to these teachings, he goes to these papers. And you got the starlight, and how do you explain this? And like the Bible says, he stretched out the heavens.
Yeah, he's been doing that since he was 7 or 8, but he didn't actually become a Christian. He didn't even actually open the Bible until he was 17, and it was the last of the holy books that he actually opened. So he's kind of got a handle on absolutely every possible thing. He started off in the Baha'i, went to Islam, went to all sorts of areas. And of course, Baha'i is all roads lead to God, and along with that, there's also a myriad of other religions that people try to throw at you that are exactly the same as that, which is we take all of the good things from all the world's religions and we mold them into a blender, and bang, we get a religion.
There's a bunch of religions that do that here in the US and Canada as well.
None of them are active in Australia, though.
Oh, that's good.
I've never heard.
There's no Hebrew Israelite or Black Hebrew Israelite either that I know of. There's a Facebook page, but that's it.
Sorry, go ahead, QT.
No, I've never heard that there was people that believed that there was people here before Adam. That probably threw me off just a little bit. I've never heard that before, except Scientologists. Now, I do believe Scientology does have that as a part of their doctrine, but as far as it being that the Christian faith, I've never heard anyone say it like that anyway, that there was people before Adam. And even then, going into Genesis, Genesis 2, it kind of, they debunk themselves whenever they go into Genesis 2, because it says that, that God put the man he created in the garden. So it's like, it had to be the same man that he said male and female created he them. I thought that was different. I've never heard that before.
That's a simplistic argument, and it gets right to the point. And I have met what part of his internet name is Solo. He's really, really intelligent. He's got videos teaching Christianity and all these other doctrines and apologetics. I used to talk with him a lot. He's got a picture of some sort of three-dimensional crucifix with a three-dimensional man coming off of it. Anyways, and he was trying to, about 2 years ago, he was trying to push the idea that Adam was not the first man. And I'm not that smart. I only ever finished high school. That's as far as I ever went. But it only took me half a minute to remember Jesus referring to Adam as the first man.
Right.
So if somebody wants to say, no, he was the first man of something else, that is not the thing to do. There is nothing in the Bible remotely. Oh, sorry, Brian.
I think the more science believes that people were before Adam.
I can't hear you. You're really breaking up.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, Brian, I couldn't hear what you were saying, Brian. I'm sorry. But you don't have to be one of these deep biblical thinkers to answer some of these questions.
No, you don't. The way that I like to put it, and the way that a lot of sensible people would put it, is whether it's reasonable, because everything is possible, and not everything is reasonable. That's the way I think J. Warner Wallace puts it.
Brother Brian said that more science believes that there's people before Adam.
Is that a person's internet name, or is that?
No, that Brother Brian said that the more sciences.
Oh, okay.
They teach that.
Yeah.
Well, when science compromises the Bible, then you have to force 2 million years of Homo sapien into the Bible, which does not actually properly calculate into the lineage of Christ. And the lineage of Christ goes as far back as the maximum of 7,000 years. Some might say 10,000 years. But Homo sapien has been around for like at least 200,000 years. So you're missing 190,000 years. So Jesus's lineage does not stretch 5,000 years per person in the lineage. It doesn't. So it really, like if someone might say, well, you can't really you can't be serious. It's 6,000 years because blah, blah, blah. We know that the earth is 4.6 billion years. Well, we only know that because of the aging processes that we have that we've calculated with our tools, but we're not judging that by what God says.
And that has changed several times. I mean, my ex-father-in-law can remember when the whole universe was 5.4 million years old. So over the years, they've expanded it out to, I think it's 13.72 is the current thinking.
Yeah, that's for the universe. The universe is between 13.5 to 13.9. And again, though, if the universe is 6 days old, the Earth was finished construction on the last 3 days. So 3 days equals 8 billion years, because 13 billion minus 4.6, that's roughly 8, maybe 9 billion years. You have to stretch 3 days pre-Earth into 8 billion years. You have to have a really fantastic imagination to make God's word say, well, it took 3 billion years for this God of snapping his finger and making a rock into a loaf of bread, and snapping his fingers again and making a child raised from the dead, to make it, that God depends on time and he's restricted by that which he created, rather than saying, well, no, God could have created it in 6 days because it's a poetic language.
And therefore, as a result, because he's a created God, who's the God that created him? And eventually you get the argument that goes all the way back. John Lennox has a great book, 7 Days That Divided the World. Mm-hmm. That's a very good read. I have a copy. Unfortunately, I loaned it to a friend and I haven't got it back.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, how's it going? Hey, welcome back, J-Man.
God bless you, Pastor Sean.
Hey, Sean.
Bless y'all. God bless y'all.
We opened up saying that if anybody had any questions or compliments about Cherry Love's Room or anything that the Shield Squad has done or anything Vocab has done or the great leveling of the playfield that Brian did last night with Abaya, I don't know what his name was.
The bottom line, I like that we have expanded and gotten away from the Israelites. Especially with the false in this false prophecy series. We're gonna be dealing with a lot of and we're not done yet. I sent Terry some work by Bill Schneblin, and he was quite impressed.
Yeah, I'm very proud of her changing the subject exactly like you just said, though, to something in regards to schizophrenia of a sort that we've listened to. What you coined, Marvin the Martian.
I'm a big kid, and I still watch Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah.
That's where that came from.
Yeah,
that's where that came from.
Looney Tunes is before all of our age.
Yeah. And some of the stuff I still watch, I can watch on YouTube. Child of the 80s, I got it all. Original Danger Mouse. They've recreated that one.
Yeah, this series has really been very enlightening, especially what's kind of beautiful is the fact that even though we did move away from the subject of Hebrew Israelites a bit, it still all comes back to the way that they believe as well, because it's still a similarity in the way that they do things, So it's almost like we can compare and contrast at the same time still.
Well, we both claim to believe the same Bible. We just translate it differently. And some of the verses that they try to stretch for even Jesus' skin color, you got to go back to the other sources outside of the Bible that don't say that. And there's nothing in any of those that I have heard or know of to tell me otherwise.
Well, I remember Sister Cherry had made an argument. I don't remember if this was on live or if it was in one of our private conversations that we've had. But there was an argument. She said that if the description of Christ and God was in the Bible, that would have made God go against his commandment to not make false idols and graven images, because people would have been forced to do that off of what they heard that he looked like. So there had to be a vague description. There had to be a vague understanding and total metaphorical as to what was being said. Now, not if you was to try to guesstimate what was in that region, we would have to say that they were more early Palestinian, more Middle Eastern looking. But even then, it still doesn't give a description as to what their attributes are. So technically, just like all the rest of these false doctrines out there, they're still making graven images, especially the Hebrew Israelites, where it comes to the description of Christ on their pictures and everything else. So it's kind of funny that they do that, but they're trying to hold on to the 613, and they're breaking a part of the 613 at the same time. It's hilarious.
That's the hilarious side of it, isn't it?
Like, I don't know about Jehovah's Witnesses because I really haven't done enough research on them. But Mormons do have sculptures, depending on which one of their temples or whatever they call them that you go to. They some of them will actually have sculptures of a golden calf. Depends. You got to look for them though. If they're honest with who they are, what they represent, they will have all these different idols. And as I was saying and Sherry was in agreement about a week or two ago, the crucifix that the Roman Catholics use, even though it's not mentally on their mind, on their lips, and in their activities and their practices, hanging Jesus on a crucifix and keeping it on a wall or putting it on a pendant, most people don't think anything of it.
That's right.
But in the nitty gritty of it, I'll just say that because my brain can't think of the right words. It actually represents a Jesus who didn't rise bodily. He's still on the cross.
I agree. That's always been my argument. I totally agree with that.
Now, when it comes to other religions, not Hebrewism, but other religions, again, talking about Mormons, it's only recently in the last half century that they've been lightened up about Africans being Mormons. Back in the 19th century and the 20th century, it was against their rules to allow anybody with a dark pigment into their church. I'm not even, maybe I should research whether the Latinos were allowed, but it's only been relatively recent that they've been saying, "Oh yeah, come on in. We love all God's creatures," and they've omitted the part of their scriptures that say that their fairy tales about the black man was scarred in heaven in their spirit form by the sin of Satan, or something along those lines. And it's just, but no, that they'll skip over that part, or they'll have it omitted from their specific chapter of the Mormonism. Go ahead.
Amazing that you said that. I was just rewatching Bill Schneeblin's Mormonism Temple of Doom, and he mentioned that. This man is a former Mormon. And in fact, he was involved in quite a few things. So, I might send y'all the link in the back chat and let y'all take a look at it. I sent it to Jerry. Jerry's over there scratching her head when I talk to her. So it's some interesting stuff. And what he says about the Catholic Church is a trip. And then I didn't know that with that many Catholic Church, there's Roman Catholicism, there's old Catholicism. I said, oh my God.
Yeah, I've met a few.
Then there's another Catholicism where they actually allow the priest to marry.
Yeah, is it Anglican? Is one form that?
No. These folks just straight up call themselves Catholic.
Oh, okay.
This is a totally different one. Not the Anglicans.
Not the higher Anglican.
Yeah, but I've met a few Anglicans, and they're very, for lack of a better word, again, patriotic. They're very defensive of being called Roman. But when you actually start talking to them about it, do you do the traditions of the candles and in the confession? No. Do you have to have a certain robe? No, but we do wear them. Do you pray at least once a day for 10 minutes to a saint or Mary? No. Do you call anybody but God Father? Some of them might. Well, I'm sorry, but you're not Roman Catholic. No, but I'm Catholic.
No. I used to be part of the Evangelical Anglican in Sydney when I was a kid, because that's where my parents took me. And I've been visiting one of the Anglican churches in Queensland where we moved to, and it was completely bells and smells. There's an utter difference between it.
Speaking about the incense, I've since started believing that it's actually different than what I was taught. But I was taught that they would swing the incense on a chain when the priest would enter.
They do.
Yeah, but the folklore of that was people would stink. They wouldn't shower. And
Yeah.
yeah, right, that's a joke.
But there was a time when nobody showered, right?
It's hilarious.
Well, somebody's got to put up with the smell or suddenly realize that to have a shower, they're clean.
I've got a American Episcopal friend. That's the American side of it, the Anglican Church.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pastor, and I went to one of their couple of their meetings, services, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a Thanksgiving service where all the ministers from around the neighborhood in Detroit and in the suburb of River Rouge, we got together. And some of us were Baptists, some of them were Episcopal. Some of us were Methodists, AME, CME. Just pick a ABC, whichever one you wanted to be.
Whichever alphabet.
Yeah. Depending on the denomination. Some were non-denominational. And it was different to see someone stand over here to read this scripture, somebody stand over here on this other side to read the other scripture, and the main message came in the center. That was different to me.
And that was where?
Sorry, go
where
ahead.
Was that? No, where was that?
I was at an Episcopal church in Detroit.
You said that was in the.
It was different.
Yeah, they're a little odd, apparently.
Well, basically, it's taken from Episcopal, meaning bishop. So
the last royal wedding, the pastor who married them was an Episcopalian.
Got it. Okay.
So, but it's an American Anglican church, there's a Church of Scotland, which is an equivalent of the Presbyterian Church here in Australia. And there's one near me that does a Bible understanding course every Wednesday night. I've never been. I just walk past the church.
Yeah, he was very charismatic, that guy that was doing the wedding for what's her name? The last wedding.
Prince William.
Yeah, Prince William and that young lady. That was very, very different. Now the music was amazing. But it was different. That guy was very, very charismatic. The only thing I was waiting for was somebody to give an amen and stand up,
I never saw it. I didn't want to see it because I just didn't check it out.
Yeah,
it's a wedding. I've been divorced. Awesome. So I didn't want to check out another wedding until I'm trying to think about my next one. But anyway, that's beside the point. A lot of hurdles to jump before that happens.
Oh, I understand. But yeah, let's see. It was something I wanted to ask you, Brother Remy. Where was it? Oh, how some people actually genuinely believe in Lilith being the first wife of Adam.
Oh, I heard that being discussed in a video once, and I lost track of it.
I don't know.
it's a funny concept to think that just because there was one woman who didn't submit to Adam, God created Eve. It just doesn't wash with me.
Mhm.
Well, the video that I watched, it was basically like Lilith. Okay, in the beginning where it said God created male and female, created He them. That the first male and the first female was Adam and Lilith, and because they were both, for lack of a better word, which is where the awkwardness comes in, they were both, I guess, hermaphrodites, right?
Well, right off the bat. Sorry, go ahead. But
that's a red flag right there, right?
Right off the bat, though, Eve's name means to come from a rib.
Right.
Adam even says it. Her name shall be Eve, for she came out of me. Sorry, no.
Right.
Sorry, no. I'm wrong completely. No, her name shall be woman, for she came out of me.
Yeah,
but he was referring to Eve because God had quoted her name being Eve, and so Adam gave her the first classification of what she was. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it means the mother of all living.
Right. So, and that's, I totally agree. But then the story is that Lilith had came and pretty much was equal to Adam, and that basically at some point there was a sense of, I don't have to listen to you because we're on equal grounds. So God had basically moved Lilith to one side of the garden and then moved Adam to the other side of the garden. And then at the same time, he saw that Adam was lonely. So he said, okay, let me go ahead and take this woman from your rib. But the funny part about it was that whenever he did that, who tempted Eve in the garden, it was actually Lilith that took on the form of a serpent just so that she could be able to tempt Eve. Now, that's where the whole serpent seed thing comes in, I believe.
Yeah, and I didn't know that angle.
Yeah, that was a video I had watched probably about 2 years ago, and they were saying how that, I guess in a way, Lilith had procreated with Eve, and that's how Cain was produced, I believe.
Oh, no, and there's no way that we know the Bible. Cain came from Eve. We know that.
Right. No, that because anyway. Remember, if Lilith is a hermaphrodite, right? Then they're saying that Lilith, basically had tempted Eve to be intimate with her, and then fast forward, right? And then fast forward, she ended up having Cain, but then she ended up being with Adam after she was, you know what I'm saying, later on.
I think I can see what you're trying to do that, but yeah. it's just a hilarious thing when you open a can of worms, isn't it?
Right. It's like there's no way to actually pinpoint because it really doesn't make any sense. But when I saw the video, of course, my eyebrows went up like, huh? But I mean, it was funny because there was a lot of people that actually believed this. When you go in the comment section, there was people that was like, oh, I've been knowing this for years. Oh, we've been taught this my whole life. And I'm just like, wow. That's crazy because to me, it doesn't make any sense.
I found out about it from a neighbor where I used to live before I moved to where I am. And so I did a little looking into it, but I don't want to go too far into that sort of stuff lest it open up the thing for another demon to come in and destroy something. So,
but there's what I'm reading right now quickly on the internet. There is no actual mention in the Bible. I don't know about the Apocrypha, but I don't even think there of Lilith. No. It's rather it's Sumerian.
No,
it's a myth added to the Bible. It's lots of cultures had flood myths. Doesn't mean that they were actually talking about the same Noah, or if they were, they could have got parts missing or parts wrong.
And for those to be true, it would have to be a multiple God system, and that's not in Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because remember, the Mormons actually believe that not only is there that they use the Elohim in the plural, but then they also say that whenever one dies, that they will turn into a god as well. So it's almost like,
Yeah, that's it.
it gets kind of crazy once you get into a lot of those false religions like that.
And in the Gilgamesh epic, the ark is actually open, so it has no roof.
Right.
That gets my goat straight away to say wrong.
Right.
How are you supposed to survive? You're going to drown if it's raining for 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah.
Well, not only that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say not only that, but take into consideration that everything. And I don't know if you guys remember the teaching of the Pangea. Did you guys ever learn about the Pangea when you were in school?
No.
That all the continents were connected at one point.
Oh yeah, okay, Gondwana, yes, gotcha.
Right. So in my mind, if there was the Pangea, right, and God raised the sea levels, and it wasn't just necessarily from the ground because that was the first time they had seen rain as well. So if they're getting, like you said, straight rain and flooding for 40 days and 40 nights, it's pretty legit. I mean, everything would have to die.
Yeah, well, here's Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Here's Wikipedia saying that Lilith was a fabrication made by the Jews in their Talmud, which explains a lot.
And the Talmud is not to be trusted, from what I can gather.
Hey, welcome back, Brian.
Hey, Remy.
Yep.
Hey, Brian.
Lilith is the word Lilith is in the Bible. It's under the word screech owl. It's
under the word.
It's in like Isaiah.
Okay.
Screech owl. It's in like Isaiah 34 or something like that. I have to Google it, but it's under the word screech owl.
Screech owl or screech out?
Screech owl. Screech owl.
Okay.
Owl is in the animal. The bird.
Owl.
Yeah, screech owl. It's under the word screech owl. In the Hebrew, it's called Lilith.
Okay, Isaiah 34:14 apparently. Desert creatures will meet with hyenas, and wild goats will bleat to each other. There, the night creatures will also lie down and find themselves placed. That doesn't say anything about. Okay.
Yeah, look under in the Hebrew.
Oh, KJV.
The Hebrew says Lilith.
Okay.
In the Hebrew.
Yeah. Okay, so 34:14. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Which screen am I using? There. And all right, so this is where in the KJV, where you're talking about screech owl, same verse.
Yeah, it's KJV screech owl.
Same verse, and I'll read it again. Yep. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beast of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place to rest. All right, so let's go to Bible Hub, was it?
Yep, and look under the underlining text.
Interlinear. And whoa, that went a little too fast. So I don't know the exact order of the Bible off by heart. Oops, no, I don't want to go to Song of Solomon.
Okay.
I don't want to go to Song of Solomon.
No, been there before.
We did that last month. We did that last night. We had enough of that.
Couldn't read that with a straight face when I was a 16-year-old kid. That was hilarious.
Was it 34:14 or 32:14?
It was 34:14.
Yeah, okay. I was just making sure. Oh, there's got to be a faster way of doing this. Yeah, okay, so I'll just go here.
Click up there at the top.
Well,
Next time y'all get to the Song of Solomon, y'all better wait until it's Sweetest Day coming up.
And don't let the kids read it.
No.
All right. So how do I get to the interlinear from here?
Some of the best pickup lines, eh? No.
I want to try Blue Letter Bible to get the interlinear.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
How do I get to the interlinear from here?
Anyway.
Maybe I am in the wrong trip. Where's the interlinear? Oh, well, let's see here.
Can you find it?
Oh, here we go. I just have to go to the language. I was looking for the actual word. I was looking for the actual word lexicon but I had to go up here to language. All right, so 3414. Let's go to.
It's pretty good. I have a hard copy of the Strongs.
All right, so International Standard Version, and desert creatures in each. They're also Liliths will settle. So it's a type of animal. Oh, okay, that's making the plot thicken. Night monster. There you go. There's confirmation. It's a demon.
It's a demon.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. Night monster, demon. It's called a Lilith. So next time you see an owl hooting at night, hey demon, get out of here.
I mean, and I heard one last night. I rebuked it.
Yeah. Well, next time you're watching Cheers, watch out for Lilith Crane.
Yeah, click on that 3917. That'll get you the definition of it. See it right there, 3917A. There you go. Lilith. A female night demon.
Scary.
Yeah, so it's called a Lail in other tongues. Hey, Sean, you were talking about this the other night, weren't you? Sorry, I shouldn't bring that up. It's a bad memory.
That's all right. I had a similar experience about 2 years ago. I distinctly remember being pinned down, and all I heard was a voice saying, "You're mine now." That's all I heard.
I've had demons in my room, and at least once, but I think it's been twice now. I was already, I don't know, I think I was already under my covers for some reason, and I never did that as a kid, never.
Mm.
But some reason I sleep in total darkness. I always do.
Yeah,
and,
that's the way it goes.
But I not recently, but this was just a few years ago, and I distinctly was woken up, and my eyes still perceived that I was under my blankets, I guess. And yet I could distinctly hear growling in my room, and I don't have any dogs. And there was a moving light. So even if I did have a light on, this was moving. So I've had my share. So.
Oh yeah, I've had my feelings as well. Basically, where you just feel that something is wrong. I've got a radar for that one. The Bible says there are all sorts of demons.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Miss Hawley says that she couldn't read it. It was too small. And then at the last minute, she could see. Okay. So here we were reading from Isaiah 34.
14.
How's it going, Built for Speed? Welcome to the overdraft room, so to speak.
Welcome to the machine.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a Pink Floyd reference.
When Sherry's at college or she's at work, this is when if nobody else is holding a room, I will try to get a hold of the room. So
good. I'll be around if I am here.
So yeah, Built for Speed. If you have any compliments or questions about any of the apologists over the last week, like that includes Vocab or G-Man or anybody, really, lay it on us.
Yeah, I was talking about the serpent seed. Some of the sects of the Hebrew Israelites believe in that. And I actually threw one of them off one time, and I said, "Well, I'll tell you what." Now I said, "Well, after the flood, which one of the serpent seeds come? Which line did it come through then?" And they couldn't tell me.
Yeah.
Because the flood. I mean, once the flood happened, there was only 8 people that survived.
That's
unless they don't believe in a worldwide flood. I've heard that one before too.
Oh, by the way,
that's the one.
By the way, last night I overheard. I was, it's the most quoted verse in the entire Bible was, one of the top 10 most quoted verses in the Bible. Sorry, when Jesus says that your seed and his seed shall be in enmity with each other. Well, he's not talking to, he's not talking about some sort of metaphoric seed. Satan was cast into a flesh, which means that he then, from that day forward, had a organic seed. God Almighty, who also was Jesus, was actually being literal. His seed and your seed.
Yeah.
So
Genesis 3:15.
So when we're talking about the Nephilim in Genesis 6, it could be taken as his seed and her seed against her seed. Sorry, his seed, the Nephilim, took her seed by force in Genesis 6. Could be.
Well, if you look at Genesis 3:15, and I didn't think about it last night when I was talking to him about it. Genesis 3:15 shows all the curses. He gives the curses to the serpent. He gives the curses and basically tells the woman she's going to be in childbirth. But man is cursed, so man's seed will always be cursed. So that's the reason it has to come through the virgin birth. I didn't think about that last night, but I was pointing to that. He kept saying it came through Abraham's seed. I'm like, no, it's going to be something special about the Genesis 3:15 seed.
Yeah, the only way that you're going to deal with that is God has to do a fresh seed that has no problems with it and no faults.
Yeah, like what I just said about the seed though in the Nephilim. That's as far as I'm going to go down that rabbit hole, because I'm not. I only just came up with it my own self, and I'm sure it's been said before by other people. I'm not fully believing it. I'm not going to invest anything into it. I'm just saying, hey, maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, it goes back to when God said right at the beginning, you will you'll strike his heel, or he'll crush your head, sort of deal.
And also talking about the serpent, there's been debate for who knows how long, many years, that Satan is not the serpent in the garden.
I've heard that one. It's not new.
And yet Revelation actually does say, "Is this the dragon, the serpent of old?" So it's almost definitively saying, yeah, it's actually saying that the spirit that is in Revelation,
but in the Genesis 3:15, when they crushed the serpent, when he was it? I can't remember exactly the way it is. He bites the foot and he crushes the head. That is a show in the cross. That's basically they took him to the cross. He died, but he's going to eventually crush his head because he rose from the dead. That's what it means.
Yeah.
That's if you look at it carefully on Genesis 3:15, that's talking about Jesus going to the cross.
Yeah.
The serpent thought he beat him, but he rose from the.
Yeah, there is no other way to take that.
See, yeah, that got that those verses in Genesis got really cryptic for me. I never understood it. But when we're talking about the bruising his heel and crushing his skull, regarding the serpent, that's one of the several things that I did not appreciate with Mel Gibson's Passion of Christ. Was
Yeah, I didn't see it.
The Bible does not say that Jesus stirred from his praying. In particular, because he did at least twice. It's complaining against the apostles. But one of those times when he went to the apostles to complain about them falling asleep, it does not say that he found a rattlesnake and he stepped on it. That's added. There's nowhere in the Bible that says that, and it does not. It also does not say that he prayed to the moon. So to me, that was kind of pandering. To me personally, that was pandering to Muslims who were trying to say, "Yeah, you guys are worshiping the same Allah." Sorry, but we don't. And then one of the biggest problems I had with that film was when Judas, I think it was under the bridge, because he realized the weight of his actions, and Jesus was being tugged around by a chain, and then he was beaten, and Jesus was pushed off the bridge and dangled before Judas. That's not in the Bible. It's not in the Bible.
That's probably some kind of Roman Catholic doctrine they're adding to it, because he's a big Roman Catholic.
He is. So is Jim Caviezel, actually.
I've never heard that before.
Which part?
Yeah.
I didn't know. What movie was that?
Oh, The Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah.
The follow-up was Paul.
Yeah.
The recent one, and I don't particularly want to see that either, because
it wasn't that bad, actually, because what's his name? Caviezel, he plays Luke.
Yes, the Apostle Luke, yes.
Luke is, he's a chronicler, and so when Paul is in his late 70s, he's in prison and he jots down essentially acts. So
yeah,
it's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie.
Sorry, I've seen Caviezel do his stuff too, and he's got his head screwed on, at least to my head.
I think the part that threw me off on the Passion of the Christ was the fact that Jesus made a table and chairs for his mother. That part was kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even have table and chairs then. They were all sitting on the floor. And Jesus made a table and chairs and then kind of like measured himself to the table. That was crazy to me.
He was a carpenter, but I don't think carpentry was advanced quite that far.
Right.
I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, at first I think he was when in that scene. I think I was told he's actually talking to his mother, Mary. But
right.
the first time I saw that scene, I thought he was. I thought because the look he had, the look that the actor had, was one of attraction, one of endearing towards a lover. The way he laughed and smiled, it's just something about it was more than a son for a mother to me. And so I didn't read the subtitles, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't read the subtitle saying mother or anything like that. So I thought this is probably another one of those offland offshoot ideas that this is Mary Magdalene. And I'm like, because she was too young to be his mother. I thought, anyways.
Yeah,
Right.
and,
The act- Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
no, you're actually going to say I've heard that too, and I don't really buy that other theory that somehow Jesus' relatives are in the south of France.
I think that was a Da Vinci Code thing too that was thrown in on that part as well, I believe.
Yeah, and the only thing, out of all the facts in the Da Vinci Code, the only thing he actually got right was the fact that it took place in 325 AD.
Talking about the Passion of the Christ or the Da Vinci Code?
No. The movie, The Da Vinci Code. The only thing the Da Vinci Code actually got right, just to go for a second, the only thing they actually got right was the fact that the council took place in 325 AD. Everything else is just complete false. But back to Passion of the Christ.
Right.
Yeah, if you listen enough to Faithfully God and his council, they'll actually debunk, and Veckel, they'll debunk the Council of Nicaea. Not that it didn't happen, but they'll debunk that it's the key to Christianity at all. So
yeah, there's a guy here called John Dixon. He's a professor of I've got the book right here in front of me. Damn it! He's a professor of historian of history, ancient history at Macquarie Uni in Sydney. He's also a pastor as well as many other things. And he used to be in a band called In the Silence back in the 80s, I think it was. He was going to do a whole bunch of things in a series of talks to debunk it because the friend suggested that he did, but when he went in and actually found that they actually only had one fact, he went, no need. The only thing needs to debunk is that, and I don't need to debunk anything more.
Two people just dropped. Hope everything's okay.
I'm still here. I've had a little few problems, but okay.
Hey,
there we are. Brian's back.
Yeah. So anyways, getting to the reviews of what's happened in the last few days. I didn't catch any more than maybe 2 minutes of Vocab Malone's show last night, I think it was. And Brian you were there, I know that, and there was another gentleman guest. And I had no idea what you guys were talking about, but it sounded like I missed a really good discussion. Sounded like something was really juicy. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I've always found Vocab to be one of those few guys you can actually go to get a straight answer.
Oh, regarding what? Regarding
anything. History, Bible, Christianity in general. So many guys just seem so vague.
Yeah, no, I've got a agnostic, I guess, friend, and because he'll say, I believe there's something outside of Earth, blah 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 blah. Anyways,
but it's not God.
But he swears to me so many times that in the 20 or 30 years that Jesus was not written about in the Bible, that's when he traveled abroad, traveled northward, and learned from the Celtic saints, the what do you call them, the people in Stonehenge. He learned from
Druids or something.
He learned from seers. He learned from not witch doctors, people who knew about poultices and how to heal the sick. He went as far as Scotland, and I'm like,
no, I ain't buying that one. The gospel was not. The hilarious thing is the way the gospel got to Sweden was when Sweden invaded the UK, and that's how it got back to Scandinavia. It's kind of ironic.
So, but with that, though, because there is a gap in Jesus's written life, people want to write anything into it. That he married.
Well, what were the disciples doing? They were fishing.
Good point. Well, except for
what was Luke doing?
Except for Levi.
He was doctoring.
Except for Levi was rich, though, so I don't think he was fishing. But yeah.
Yeah, no, or tax collecting, because Matthew was a tax collector.
Yep.
And they were probably doing their own occupation, and Jesus was probably building chairs.
And tables. Probably made a couple of pots and pans too. No,
no, he was a carpenter, not a smith. Although they have the smiths were around from Cain,
right?
So you got the musicians in Cain, and you got the metallurgists. They come through Cain's line.
It's hilarious. But no, speaking of Cain's line, so what do you guys think about the teaching? Because I remember, Brother Remy, you touched on it with me a little bit, where they say, because there is a lot of people that believe that the sons of God is the line of Seth and the daughters of man is the line of Cain. What do you believe about that? What do you guys say about that that direct line of teaching or doctrine?
I don't agree with it, but Enoch, it says, the Bible directly says Enosh was Seth's son, and it was when Enosh was around that men began to call on the Lord.
Yeah, no, I'll just say I'm not opposed to the idea that it wasn't referring to actual hybrid persons that were made with the flesh of man, with the spirit of angels. I'm not opposed to the idea that it was just simply men of great repute who were known either to themselves being killers of nations or being associated with them, who, I don't know, that God called them to what have you, or that they were the ones, it could have been, men of repute to, court women and just, whatever. There could have been men of Cain, could have been men of Seth, or it could have actually have been renown, could actually have meant that they were supernatural in nature. That's what we're getting at. I don't know.
Yeah.
Personally, I believe that they were. That's the part of the story of the angels fallen. Personally, and the reason why I believe that. I know a lot of you guys don't look at the Book of Enoch as legit, but in the Book of Enoch, verse 5 or 6, depending on which one that you're reading, a version you're reading, it actually goes into detail and says the exact same verbatim that's in Genesis 6, but just with the details put in. And another thing that was kind of crazy was the fact that once it gets to the point of what they exchanged, because it wasn't like they came to earth and was like, hey, we're angels, we want you. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. It was mainly like, okay, we're going to exchange our knowledge for your bodies. So they taught them, the cutting down of roots. It's basically like they taught them alchemy. And then though the stuff that they taught these women, the women turned around and made mystery schools out of the information. So then further down, when you get to the story of Moses and Pharaoh, and for example, when Moses first told Pharaoh to let his people go, and he threw down the staff that God had anointed, and the staff had turned into a cobra, right? That basically that Pharaoh laughed and went on ahead and called his magicians to do the same trick. But we know that I am snake consumed the other snake, so we know who was greater. But it was the fact of that they had that same knowledge to be able to do the same thing. And rumor has it that they had learned that from those fallen angels. So that was something that I thought was kind of interesting, personally.
All of that stuff has to come from somewhere, I guess. And of course, the only thing that they couldn't redo was the murder of the eldest person or the eldest thing.
Yeah, like it wasn't uncommon in, say, ancient Greece for heroes of the nation, like actual men in the armies and what have you, to rise to the public eye as and being called God, not they're like little gods. Like they, it's just I don't know. I don't really. I never understood why, but essentially, say Alexander the Great. I don't know if he actually was, but take him as an example. In ancient Greece, some people might have actually called him a god because
like Hercules, you mean?
Sorry,
like Hercules.
Yeah, but actual people who actually lived could have risen to such a level of fame that they became gods, so to speak. Not in an actual sense that they could create something or govern an element of life, but rather just simply, a level above people that they were untouchable in their legend. So you got that too.
Yeah, because after that, Alexander's empire fell apart after he died, didn't it?
Well, but for what I've heard, they did try, and they almost succeeded to get Alexander to procreate, so to speak.
Yeah,
but he was so obsessed-ish, whatever, with his traveling companion, and that's as far as I'll go with that.
Well, I mean, that's where we hit speculation, and once you start hitting the science side of things, it's a whole lot of speculation that you got to go into. So things like Dr. Frank Turek's book, or apologies, Frank Turek's book, things like I don't have enough faith to be an atheist has to sort of be found.
Mm-hmm. Now, Miss Holly, if she's still listening, she says she has a question, and I asked her if she wants me to read it aloud. So hopefully she's still there. She has some questions regarding Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, and Genesis 2, verse 15. So
1:27 to 15.
Okay, here she is. Okay, so can you explain God created he them, male and female created he them. And then God placed man in the garden was Adam, though that was Adam. So there were people with Adam, and God trusted him in the garden only. So I'm not sure where you get the idea that there were people there already.
I don't think there were people in there already. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Except for the word them, it doesn't necessarily male and female created he them doesn't necessarily have to imply that there were more of them. It's just regarding those who he had already created, meaning Adam and Eve were created within a day of each other.
Well, so it goes back and forwards, doesn't it? In some points, the Bible goes all over the place.
Like there is parts in Genesis that imply that Eden was actually a city and the garden was outside of the city. So
yeah, well, I mean,
but again, that doesn't necessarily. But there's no serious evidence to defend that whether there was actually a city or whether it was just a garden, say in the middle of a wilderness.
And out of the four rivers too, it was only recently that in the recent past that they've actually found the other two rivers, which apparently were there. I think it's the Pishon and the Gihon or something like that. Because the only two that they mention are the Tigris and the Euphrates.
Yeah.
And they're the only two that are flowing today.
I think they found a dried up bed that used to be called Euphrates as well. And so that leads people to be obscured of whether or not what we have as Euphrates is the actual Euphrates mentioned in the Bible.
It's named the Euphrates River anyway. It's an assumption, but they only found the other two within the recent past.
Yeah. Okay, so Miss Holly, I know there's about a 5-second delay, but when you hear this, could you elaborate on what you mean when you're wondering whether there were other people?
Also, kind of just to give a little bit of a point of reference as well. Whenever in the Bible, in Genesis 1:26, when it said, "And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God, in verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. When you go into chapter 2 of Genesis, in the 8th verse, it says, "And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed." So basically it's saying that whoever God had created, that's who he placed in the garden after he had finished creating it. And he put him eastward in Eden. Now, as far as it being male and female, I believe that had to do with the fact of that he already, almost like he knew he was going to create Eve, but it was mainly the fact of that it was Adam there for that point. And that's where a lot of people get the correlation. Well, that's why I was saying, a lot of people were saying, well, is it Lilith that's in the beginning? Of course, that's not mentioned, but that's where a lot of people have their arguments that come in and say, okay, well, that was Lilith. That was a part of the female that was created and placed in the garden. But we do know that at least Adam was placed in the garden eastward, according to what was written in Genesis 2. So,
okay, so Miss Holly is saying that she overheard Hebrew Israelites saying that there were people on Earth with Adam, and so she's admitting that it sounded confusing to her.
Yeah, it's confusing me too.
I've heard people saying that Genesis 2 is a separate creation event. I don't know if that's relevant, but it's been debunked as well. It's just simply, God being more detailed of how he did it, why he, what he. It's not necessarily a second creation event. It's not like he, it's not like he started in Africa and then he went to Asia Major and then went over there. It's not like that.
No, actually, chapter 2 is actually a parenthetical from what happened in chapter 1 till you see the fall of man in chapter 3.
Yeah.
So when we deal with the creation of man, you got to understand, you got to read Job to understand.
Yeah, 38, 39, yeah. Sorry, Pastor, on 38, 39, correlate Genesis 1 and 2, don't they?
Ask that question again, Brother Andrew. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please.
No, sorry.
Oh, I know. Hey, and guys, I'll be back on about 20 minutes. I gotta get home.
All right.
Okay.
I get
39. Correlate by 1 and 2.
All right.
Be safe.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So
right.
Built for Speed is addressing it, saying Genesis chapter 5 verse 3 and 4 in the New American Standard Bible. When Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness, according to his, and named Seth. Yep. And so depends on, but chapter Genesis 2 happened before that. But then again, if all of Genesis is being referred to in the past tense, it could be simultaneous. But I'm not going to go there.
To throw another spanner in the works, apparently Job predates Genesis, at least the writing of it, by 600 or 700 years.
Yeah,
so it's kind of
because
yes, I've heard that too.
Because
speculation, but
because the Hindu Bible predates all of that. So, what are you gonna,
Yeah.
what are you going to do with that?
Of course, Hugh Ross has looked at all the other ones, and the last one he looked at was the Bible, and amongst the first he looked at was the Vedas, and he's able to write those off completely. So he's kind of conveniently helped us get to the Bible.
Yeah.
Because he does have to say that, goes on to say that the creation event is mirrored in Job 38, 39.
Yep.
It's Proverbs 8 and Psalm 104, I think it is.
Yeah, Miss Holly, don't take this as fact.
Gospel.
But since the daughters of Adam were not mentioned, because because the daughters had nothing to do with the line of Jesus, we can actually surmise that Adam did have daughters. It could also have been, that he could have had daughters after Seth and before Cain and Abel. We don't know that, but
That could have been stillborn too.
But you could have added that he could have had as many as 30 children. But these are the ones who mattered because they
carry the line.
Yeah, thank you. Or Cain and Abel had a major part to play regarding the prophecies, the repeating of history, so to speak, between Jacob and his brother and so forth.
Yeah, Jacob and Esau, and they patched things up, so that was good. But I mean, Cain and Abel never could.
Yeah, again, like I said, Miss Holly, don't take it as fact. But there's many things that are missing in the Bible because it was irrelevant. So.
Yeah, that's fine. There's a lot of things changed.
Do any of y'all believe that Cain and Abel were twins? Have you ever heard that one before?
I've not heard that one, but
I have heard that they were born with a twin.
Yeah, I heard they were twins, but I mean, I don't know that for sure.
In the book of, I've read a lot of the Dead Sea Scroll books, so that's the only reason why I kind of know a little bit of the stories. But according to the book of Adam and Eve, they had said that Abel had a twin sister, and Cain had a twin sister. Now, the way that the wives were presented was that they swapped twins. So Abel's sister went with Cain, and Cain's sister went with Abel. Now, according to the story, basically some of the beef between Cain and Abel wasn't just the offering. And it wasn't just the fact of that God actually favored Abel. It was the fact of that his father, Adam, was a lot closer to Abel, that Abel got the prettier wife or twin, if you will, to marry. And it was right. And it was to the point where really it was the fact of, and it's kind of sad because it was the fact of the last straw was the fact of that, okay, so he gets a chance to get with the prettier twin, really? So he was mad about it. And it was already a lead up from the fact of that his offering, Abel's offering was taken and Cain's wasn't. Adam was closer to Abel and walked with him just like God walked with Adam, and he felt a little beef about that. And it was to the point where he was like, okay, well, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, okay, I'm about to catch him when he goes in to go see his flock. I'm going to make this. He was like, hey, Cain, I'm going to ride with you when you go out to go see your sheep. And Abel was like, cool, come on with me. So when he went, I'm paraphrasing totally, right? This is the total hood version. But so, so whenever they went out, he was like, hey, Abel, so you're not going to give me back my girl though? And then Abel was like, but dad gave her to me though, bro, like whatever. So when he turned around, Abel grabbed a rock, boom, knocked him upside the head. Abel fell down and Cain was like, square up, let's fight. But Abel didn't get up. So he panicked. Cain started tripping, picked up Abel, threw him in a bush, right? The bush spit him out. Then he tried to hide him under a rock. The rock spit him out. So then he was like, okay, the only thing I could do is dig a hole and stick him in the ground. And then the earth didn't spit him out. So that was basically what happened in layman's terms, the hood version. But
you got to write a book now.
Right. Right. But that was basically the gist of what was said as the definition of what happened between Cain and Abel. But yeah, it was they had twins. Each of them had twins, and of course Adam and Eve had other kids, daughters and sons after that. But yeah, that basically Cain was mad because Abel got the hotter sister, and he was mad about that.
Yeah, you know? Again, though, paraphrase-ish, kind of with what you were saying last night, Ryan, with Abaya, when it comes to Jacob and Esau, it's not necessarily that God actually hated Esau like you and I would hate somebody, wanting them to die, but rather he was because of his foolishness and his misfortune, God favored him less. It's not necessarily that God actually wanted him dead, wanted him to have misfortune. And so we can go back to Cain and Abel. It's not just that, we can't really say that God wanted ill towards Cain, but rather because of Cain's actions, henceforth, he cursed himself. But prior to the sacrifice, however misfortunate or intention it was, Cain probably had the same favor and blessing by God as Abel.
Right.
Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah, he was trying his best to get me to say that everybody was cursed except Jacob and him. But I was like, no, that ain't what it says.
Right.
I was like, I mean, you can say it all you want, but it ain't what it says. He was trying.
Yeah, like if you've got two or more boys, sons, man or woman, mother or father, we have a father and a mother here. If you guys had two kids that were constantly fighting, constantly threatening each other, and kind of like the bad brother or whatever with Macaulay Culkin, one was trying to kill the other. You're going to start saying, you know what? If you don't behave, I'm going to have to you're going to have deal with consequences, and you're not going to have any more birthday parties until you wisen up. You're going to have these consequences. You're going to be grounded until you learn to straighten up. And so, the bad brother says, look, I'm going to, to the other child, I'm going to make a wager because, mom and dad, don't want me to succeed, that I'm going to make a wager that, you can have all of my fortune in their will. It doesn't mean that the parents actually loved the trouble child any less. Like right. There's parents who have actually been hospitalized by their kids. And
oh yeah, definitely
have come back out saying, you know what, I still love you.
David Absolutely. Wood. And to be a parent is probably the craziest love ever. I mean, I'm gonna say it like this in my parents' case, because I have a baby brother, and we used to fight when we were younger. One thing that they did was they made us hug in a corner for hours on end, and I hated those moments. But at the same time, it made me, it was terrible. But it made me respect my brother as I got older, to the point where that's like my best friend. So it's different where now I have my own kids. I have a son and a daughter as well. In my mind, if it was to the point where I always, of course, my daughter's a newborn, so it's kind of hard for me to see them fighting yet. But I do plan on, if it was to be where that would be an issue, to implement the same thing that my parents did, grab an oversized t-shirt, and you guys are both in the t-shirt for the next, 30 to 45 minutes, hugging it out, You you know, that's the way it is. You know, you got to give each other some love. You know, but at the same time, also respecting each other's boundaries. I think that's one thing that my parents also taught me and my brother too. You know, sometimes my brother would just want to be alone and play his Nintendo 64, and sometimes I wanted to be alone and read my comic books and play with my Barbie dolls. You know what I'm saying? So it was to the point where we both had respected each other's space, but we also was taught to share each other's space as well. So there has to be a balance, and I think that's a lot of what you learn from trial and error, and in the same aspect of things, that's you know, that's an attitude that Christ encourages us to do too. You know, to love each other. You know, and you know, show charity one to another. So at times it's to the point of looking at things on both sides of the spectrum. Not only do I love you as my brother in Christ, but I love you as my brother, and I love you as not only my sister in Christ, but I love you as my sister. You know, so you know it all plays a part. But as far as it is, the people that were early in the beginning, I think that the more jealousy, especially like in Cain and Abel's situation, not even going off of the occult text, the apocryphal text, or what is it, pseudographer text. The fact of that Cain and Abel had the major beef that was written was that God took Abel's offering and rejected Cain's. Now, God actually gave Cain a hint. He basically told him. He did. And he gave him like the nudge, hey, bro. I mean, I'm paraphrasing and I'm kind of like throwing it out there. But God kind of gave him an idea like, bro, you see what I'm doing here with your brother? You need to go ask him to borrow one of them lambs out there, man. And maybe I'll take your offering too. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that Cain really got the hint of what God was basically hinting to him to do. No, and because of that, it was like he got arrogant and prideful. Yeah.
Or his biggest desire became to complain.
Right. And that's what started a lot of the drama between them, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Sounds like somebody's having a photocopier in the background.
Oh, I'm pumping. I'm pumping milk. Sorry, y'all. I'm pumping at the same time with this live. So sorry, guys.
No, I'm
almost dead though.
I was just wondering what it was. Sounds like
it's my pump. It's my breast pump. That's exactly what that is. I'm so sorry. I didn't even think you guys could hear it. That's terrible.
Oh, you shouldn't have said anything. It sounds like a Xerox machine. Anyways. So
sounds like the old movie that I was watching the other day. It's the Jack Lemmon thing, How to Murder Your Wife, the Globber machine, which is just a concrete pump.
I really should watch more movies with him. I've only ever watched 3.
You want to watch that one? It's funny.
I've only ever watched 3 movies with him. That one where he's in court and he's in the jury, and then the grumpier old men movies.
Yeah, this is much better. He's a lot younger. This is 1961 or somewhere around there.
Oh wait, no, I watched The Odd Couple, so that's 4.
Yeah, but this one's back from 1961. You've got to watch his older movies are hilarious. I say younger, more like 40.
Yeah. So, so Andrew, what would you say about a person who says that they are the Lamb of God?
Come here, I'll stab you and see if you can resurrect yourself.
Okay.
I don't know.
Wow, it got dark all of a sudden.
That went dark.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just to explain that, I used to have a scooter and somebody told me it was a fake bike, and I used to say to them, kick it and you'll see how real it is.
I'm crying.
If it's a 300-pound motorcycle, you're not going to like what happens.
You'll break your leg, and I won't pay for your medical expenses, but you'll find out just how fake how real it is.
No, but on the fact of Marvin the Martian, you know, he actually has a podcast on YouTube. Did you guys know that?
I think
It's called he's the new. Yeah, it's called the New Nation of Islam.
So he's trying to now say he's Islamic as well.
Yep.
Right. He's actually trying to. Well, he's not only that, but he's like trying to do like a separate version of the NOI, like his updated version, because you know, Farrakhan actually runs the original NOI right now. So he actually is like, he doesn't like Farrakhan at all. Like he's completely backed off of that side, and he believes that because he actually spent time with Elijah Muhammad and lived in Elijah Muhammad's house, that he has more of a right or birthright to be, quote unquote, the son of man than anybody else does. But Farrakhan calls himself Christ. You know, so it's all blasphemy the whole way through. I don't know about the NOI. There's something else.
Farrakhan says he's who?
Yeah, Farrakhan says that he is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one can get, and no one can get to the Father except through him. That's verbatim what he said.
Yeah.
No one can get through him except through him.
Yeah, that's what he believes. He believes that he is the Christ. And that
I heard that.
Yeah,
he
and
was
it's
straight
pretty
up
crazy.
and down when he was questioned. Sorry.
No, it's good. It was just these people are completely delusional. And even there was another matter of fact, I plan on sending it to Sister Cherry. I might send it to you too, Brother Remy, and Brother Brian. But basically, long story short, and Brother Andrew, but basically there was a video that Geno Jennings is fearless. I think that's the reason why we have so much material to show with these debates with him. But he actually did for real, he really is fearless. But there was a debate that he did with some NOI guys, and they weren't from Mosque Number 5, which is Farrakhan's mosque. They were from like another mosque or whatever. And these guys turned around and said that they believe that they are gods in the flesh, and that they were taught that they are gods in the flesh.
There's that Kenneth Copeland teaching.
Right, but it was almost like, and it's against even, because of course that's against even the Quran. The Quran doesn't teach that. But I mean, they go so far left that they don't even realize what they're saying is blasphemy. It's crazy.
Liberalism again. Welcome to the world of it.
Because Islam is even more strict on godhood than Christianity, because they're monotheism, I think, or is it oneness or something like that?
No, they're monotheists. They're monotheists for sure.
It is
also the very oneness doctrine.
Essentially, so is Christianity. It's just simply that one God manifests itself in three
personalities. Exactly.
Yeah, it's three.
But there is one. There is one church where they think that Jesus is all three rolled into the one.
Yeah, people used to think that's what I believed, and I never did believe. I never actually did believe that. I would just be fumbling over my words, and it would come out that way. But that was never what I meant.
No, and it's hard to explain in the Trinity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was actually taught that there was just two in the Godhead. That God the Father, and then Christ, who is the Son of God, and then the Holy Spirit is actually just the Spirit of God, or the power of God.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was never taught 2 or 1 in the Godhead. 3 or 1 in the Godhead. I was always taught 2. Mm-hmm. So for me, it took me basically getting my eyes open to see the Trinity doctrine. Honestly.
Well, if Jesus didn't say that, I must go so the Comforter can come, referring to referring to an actual person per person. If
Right.
Jesus never said that, then you'd really, really have to analyze King David, and that's really hard to do. Otherwise, so Jesus is the one who the first person to actually say there is another that must come,
Right.
and that other talks to Peter or Paul and actually says that he is God, and I've been with you, and it's like, okay, so there's three.
There's the third guy, right? There's the third one.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And
And,
then,
it was
Paul says that Jesus is in you, and I'm like, no, he's not. He's in heaven.
No, he said right.
right. And it would be pretty uncomfortable to stay in me. I've fallen too many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I've seen people. I've seen people with conjoined twins. No, thank you.
Right. It's a little bit uncomfortable. No, but I can imagine that, Christ would want to be in us. I mean, we're like the Bible called, we say that who was that? Was that Paul or John that said, I'm filthy rags. We're filthy rags,
Mm-hmm.
We're nothing. We're nothing compared to Christ. And Christ is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, why would he want to dwell in us?
Why would he want to dwell on us? Exactly. And I've heard it go one step farther, because we're all adults here, and I'm hoping that nobody hears this was like a bloody tampon. Is the best way I've heard it described. God doesn't want that one.
Now, before I get to Miss Molly's next question, I'll just say that at one point I used an analogy. Of course, I've been told by other brothers in Christ and apologists that never use analogies. Never use analogies. They're flawed every time. And I'm like, well, and so to kind of describe the Trinity, I use the video game The Sims as an example.
Well, I can see where you're coming from for that.
Because the video game was created and designed, and you are manipulating an entity inside that video game who interacts with the world. So, in a sense, your flesh is controlling that reality that your avatar is in, but your mind is what. Your mind, being your spirit, is what is actually making things happen. So it's really complicated. But and then the person I was telling to, no, I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm fine with being wrong.
Well, you name me the apologist that doesn't use those sorts of things as an illustration. Right. I can't think of one.
Now, Miss Holly is asking, why is it that Christians are not taken as seriously as Muslims and Jehovah's Witness?
Because it's a joke. Sorry, I don't mean that. I am a Christian, and I don't mean, but because they see it as a joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm sure she would like to know why. But as an insight from their point of view, how could we conceive of looking at Christians from their point of view? Why is it that we are perceived by them as the weaker? Or
why are we weaker? Well, are we delusional? That's what some people like to put us. The whole reason that the God delusion was written was so that if you were a Christian and you picked it up, you wouldn't be a Christian by the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Richard Dawkins' specific goal.
I think another argument is the fact of that the way that the Muslims dedicate their lives to, for lack of a better word, their God, Jehovah Witnesses, the way that they go out and they minister out, or rather go out, and do their missionary works. They do more works than the traditional Christian does. Of course, we know that we don't need works. We're saved by faith and grace. So we get the punchline, whereas in their case, they do more works. And I think that's the reason why people take them a little bit more seriously, because they actually are doing the work outside and people can see it. For example, if you're a Muslim and you're at work, 3 times a day to 5 times a day, you're going to see them, whether they're at work, whether they're at school, they're going to hit them knees. They're going to leave in the middle of it and turn to the east and bust out praying, And if it's a Jehovah Witness, you're going to see them using them Mike Sinai feet, to beat the pavement, to do whatever they got to do to get their message across, because they have to. So I think it's mainly the fact of that they do more works and we live on more faith. Now, the fact of us even doing what we're doing tonight, studying and discussing the Word of God, this is works, but it's actually a pastime for us. This is a fun pastime for us. So for us, this is actually a way to actually kind of let our hair down and have a good time. Whereas in their case, it's more of works for them, if I could say it like that, I guess. But yeah, that's how I see it anyway.
Well, I was going to say they preach more death than we do. They preach more law than we do.
Yeah,
more consequence than we do.
You got the two lines. I mean, you basically look at all other religions except Christianity. They're self righteousness. They do things. They have to do things. Most all false religions out there are doing something. The Catholics have to do certain things. The Muslims have to do certain things. Jehovah's Witnesses have to do certain things. It's man achieved. That's what they're doing. They're man achieving stuff. They have to do stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
right. I totally agree.
Miss Holly, when she's now talking about Muslims and their devotion by praying 5 times a day, and she didn't say it, but for several hours a day. She didn't say that part. Whereas also then the J Dubs they refuse to celebrate any holidays, and she quote, "I don't want to celebrate holidays, and they think something is wrong with me." God only requires that we don't forsake the assembly of our brethren, which is brothers and sisters, the body of Christ, and that we fellowship as often and wherever we are, whenever we are, and he also encourages us to make occasions to see each other. Oh, but we're not required to go to a building. We're not required to pick up a holly bush on Easter Sunday. We're not required to do that. You're not required to go to a church or anywhere. You're not required to read the Bible of when Jesus was crucified and resurrected every Easter. You're not required to read the book of Matthew every Christmas. It's just something nice to do to show your devotion to God. Whereas these people they're more obsessed with, again, how which one of the apostles quoted that, do not be like the heathen or the hypocrite who like to walk in the streets and preach in the synagogues and shout on the street corners to be admired and appreciated by man.
That was Paul, I think.
Was it? But these people do it because they have a mentality that their God demands them to look like an obstacle, to look like something that needs to be admired for their flesh reason, not because they know that even their righteous Muslim could go to hell.
Yeah, most certainly. And the righteous Christian could go to hell too. If they are absolutely confused.
Well, then they're not a Christian.
They're not a Christian. But that's what I mean. You know,
Yeah.
if we the best way that I've heard it put is R.C. Sproul Senior before he passed on. He was talking about how if he was going to be if he was rejected from heaven, that there are two types of people in hell: people who are crying, and the people who are gnashing, and he would be amongst the people with the tears because they got it wrong.
Yeah. Miss Holly, it's important only to not get worked up and worried about legalism. Now, legalism is when you yourself, for your own personal reasons, or when you express something that you've been taught or you've found out as a strict guide for your life or someone else's life. So when the Bible says you should or shouldn't or you must do something, legalism says that, well, I have to live like that from now on. Jesus put that away to a degree. To a degree, he put that away because his blood is what matters. And if
that's exactly right.
If you loved him, you'll do the legalism, but not for legalism's sake. So when it comes to worshiping every Sunday or Saturday, you're not obligated to do it. You know, if you want to take it seriously, then don't be too serious. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be thinking, well, I don't feel like doing celebrating Christmas. I don't feel like, going to my pastor's house on Halloween to avoid the paganism of that day. You don't have to kick yourself in the butt about it. You don't worry about it. I know you probably aren't, but I'm just saying it just in general. You don't have to, and you don't have to worry about your friends and your coworkers and whoever else looking at you because you refuse to go to church on a Sunday or Saturday, or you refuse to do these things on the blessed Christmas or Easter. It should not really matter, but at the same time, you should not. I'm not saying you personally, but a person should not also should not degrade others if the others that in your life do choose to honor Christ every day or every Saturday, or especially on Christmas and Easter and Halloween. You shouldn't do that against them either. I'm not saying you do, but legalism would be somebody in those shoes saying you must. So you don't be pressured. Don't be worrisome. If you don't feel like it, just leave. Be content with Christ and pray. And that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just to kind of echo a little bit of what Brother Remy said, me personally, Sister Holly, I was raised where I didn't celebrate any holiday as well. The only holiday that I celebrated was my birthdays, my family's birthdays. And it was to the point where Christmas wasn't an issue for me. Halloween, I was never allowed to go trick-or-treating or anything like that. As far as Easter goes, my father had always told us that was a pagan holiday, especially at the time because it was worshiping the goddess Esther. Think that's the reason why there was a lot of the bunny rabbits and etc. on that end. He gave us the definition rather as to why we didn't celebrate those different holidays. Now, where it came to family members that did worship in those days or got together, and if we were invited, for example, now Thanksgiving, he didn't really mind too much because that was more of a family holiday where we got together. However, me and my family, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving just for the sake of us being West Indian and on the historical end. That's the reason why me and my family don't celebrate it. But as far as it being where if my family, like let's just say my mother, was to invite us over for dinner, I'm not going to not go visit her. Or if it's to the point where, family would invite you out, I wouldn't forsake that. But as far as me saying I have a Christmas tree up in my home, or I'm serving candy for Halloween, or I'm even allowing my kids to dress up, or, what I'm saying, for Halloween, or letting my kids participate in an Easter egg hunt. Personally, I don't do that. However, again, in my life, I don't condemn those that do it. I just kind of politely, thank you for the invite, but we're going to go ahead and pass. If it would make my son feel a little better, we'll go ahead and instead of it being that we're doing Christmas Day dinner, we'll go ahead and cook dinner maybe that later on that weekend or that next weekend, or we'll might do something nice and go somewhere, just to be able to keep his mind busy, so that there is no issue where it comes to, um, where he'll feel left out from the other children. Now, Valentine's Day, things like that in school, if it's something that he would be forced to participate in, then I would probably politely decline with this teachers and things like that for our own reasons. But as far as it being with me telling my son he couldn't receive any gifts from his friends or receive anything for Valentine's Day from his friends, I don't think I would be that harsh, mainly because I don't want my son to be embarrassed. But as far as it being that there was a freedom for us to be able to, because we have the conviction in our own home, I just kind of just keep our conviction to our family. I don't force it upon others, if that makes sense. But as far as it being, if you personally, if you feel a conviction about it, then follow suit. But if you don't feel a conviction about it, just pray and like Brother Remy said, don't forsake the assembly. In all things, don't forsake the assembly. Period. You don't want to make yourself look like you're being a hermit when it could be a nice build up with family and friends. So.
Yeah, anything to say there, Andrew?
Sorry, I've lost train of the thought.
Oh, it's regarding somebody feeling pressured into honoring and celebrating holy days when they don't feel like they should, or they don't want to, or they just have no personal urgency to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, as an Aspie, like my own company is what I prefer, but loneliness and isolation only takes you so far. There comes a point when you don't want to be odd, and you kind of realize that you have to start talking to people and understanding people. So if you're going to socialize, it's a very good way to go out and socialize.
So just like I said there, Miss Holly, it's not just about forsaking the assembly, but if you enjoy fellowship with a family member or a spouse, if you have one, or your children, as my mother does, because I moved back in with my mother, we fellowship. If that actually is if that actually is, fun for you, if you enjoy it all the more, it actually enriches you when you talk about biblical topics or something spiritual in your personal life, then it could, it's suggestible that you use the opportunity to make these an excuse, maybe, to hold, a get together or a fellowship in your own house, or say, let's go to not a McDonald's because they're too darn busy and noisy, but go to a quiet-ish public setting, and make that your honoring of that day, but don't do it for the day's sake. I'm just saying, people might say, well, because I enjoy just doing things for fellowship's sake, not just reading the Bible, not just going there to read and stand and sing a hymn, but you want to be just, hey, I want to start talking about things that matter to me and relate it to Christ. That's fellowship. And look for an excuse on those days that you that these people are hounding you for and criticizing you for, or ridiculing or looking at you wrong, look for an excuse to make something else happen on those days that is not tradition, but still honors God. Something. But as long as it's at your pace, you're an adult now. That doesn't mean, so that means that, you know, daddy is not going to grab you by the arm, get out of bed, we're going to church. No, you're an adult now. I am going to invite my brothers and sisters in Christ over, or I'm going to ask them, would you rather, you know, spend time together rather than going and singing at the church for 2 hours? If that's what tailors to you more than going to church, then I say do it, because you're still honoring Christ. You're still honoring the Father.
Well, and Sister Holly made a statement that kind of makes sense, at least to me anyway. She said, I enjoy fellowship, but not waiting for certain times of the year to do so. Personally, I do the same thing. Like I said, in my case, instead of it being that I'm waiting for Christmas, let's get together a couple weeks before Christmas. Hey, guys, I'm going to do a barbecue at my house, or hey, next week, even, you know, I plan on having something with my family to, you know, all get together so we can all spend time together. No reason, just because, you know, we want to just spend some time together. If it's to the point where you just want to get together to fellowship with your family, the main point is the fact of making a family time together all the time. It's not the fact of waiting for the specific holidays to do these different things. You want to be able to do it all the time. And again, if it convicts you to about participating on those specific days, like Brother Remy said, you know, there's different ways to go about it. And if it means that, you know, staying at home, you know, or even, you know, maybe you just decide on Christmas Day, I don't want to go to church, I want to stay at home because I don't want to participate in that, then, you know, by all means, but we don't want you to forsake the assembly. The Bible tells us not to forsake the assembly. So, you know, basically spending time with family and friends, it should be all the time. You should be able to give your family gifts all the time. You know, you should tell your family and give them their roses while they're alive all the time. And that's the main point. We don't want, I mean, I know in my case, my father said, we don't want to wait to give our loved ones flowers when they're gone, you know, and we don't want to wait on specific dates to give them gifts. And that was the main reason why he didn't want to stick on straight holidays, you know. So if it convicts you, sis, then by all means, you know, that if it's to the point where it's just the fact of just the title, you know, don't let it bother you. And if you're invited, just go, just for the sake of being a fellowship and being, you know, a positive. You don't have to rub it in their face. But as far as it being, instead of you bringing a gift, thank you, but, you know, this isn't a holiday I really prefer. I just wanted to come and see you guys. You guys are my gift. You know what I'm saying? There's a way that you can do it that's not offensive, if you will.
Don't let it be a chore.
Yeah. Do I have to? Okay. Apparently, I have to present.
Well,
I think. No.
Welcome back, Pastor Sean.
Okay. I thought maybe he wasn't. I thought maybe you were excluded from the chat.
Thank you. No. I had to walk. I had to get home. Then I had to fix something to eat.
Yep.
I had to get something to eat.
Yeah. Well, right now we're talking to Mrs. Holly out, or Ms. Holly. Sorry, Ms. Holly, out in the chat, and she's saying that she has peers of. You didn't use the word peers, but I'll use it as a broad sense. Who make her feel ostracized or excluded, or they look at, or they talk about her wrong, they alienate her because she chooses not to celebrate the holidays, so we're just trying to say, well, you know, you don't feel like you have to, but we're also saying, you know, again, what Sister Haitian just said, don't forsake the assembly. Look for opportunities. But when it comes to the holidays, if you don't feel like you should or you don't want to honor Christmas or honor Thanksgiving, as you said, or honor Easter, or reappropriate Halloween, as some churches do, if you don't feel like you want to or feel like you should or you don't feel anything for it, then, as Sister Haitian just essentially said, do something on another day relative or coming up to that day, like say have a barbecue on the day before or a few days before, and say, and if anybody asks, oh, we already had a shindig, and let it be done. Don't feel pressure.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not able to see. The thing about it is, my birthday coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow.
All right, happy birthday.
But October 12th, 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Right.
But the thing about it is, holidays is whether it's the 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day. Don't celebrate Halloween. I don't celebrate Halloween. Thanksgiving, Christmas. I know what Christmas is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, even though I know he wasn't born on that day, that would be biblically impossible. But I celebrate the day because I'm remembering that he was born of a virgin. And the holidays between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yeah, I go out, I get my turkey, and if I'm over at somebody's house, I make a pig out of myself and watch the football game. But I enjoy the fellowship of family, of being around the loved ones, because generally that's one of the few days I can get off and enjoy the turkey, the dressing, the cranberry sauce, the roll, the greens and the ribs and the and the lemonade, and then top it off with the sweet potato pie.
Yes, Jesus, hallelujah.
Now, Ms.
Thanksgiving.
Sorry.
Those are the days I get to enjoy those things.
Yeah.
Because generally I can't eat like that.
Now, Miss Holly, since you just said though that those are the only days that they get together, then maybe you should be looking at them in a certain light, because that's what the heathen do. They celebrate themselves by saying, yeah, we went to church those 3 or 4 times a year. Yeah, we have a Bible somewhere in the house. We're Christian. I don't know if that's what you're going through, but if they're alienating you because you're not coming to see them on those reunions, maybe you should say, well, look, if you're, I don't know what states you are in opposed to their states, but if you're in the same state, how about you say, well, hey, look, I'm available on these days. How about we make it so it's this date, so I'm not pressured to come and have Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner with you guys, but rather we get together for family's sake. Something, if that's, I don't know if that's what's going on, but if they're only getting together on those holidays just for the holiday's sake, then one's got to wonder what kind of family that is. Like, true, if that's the only, some mothers are, have it hard with their family, and that's great for if they can get even half a day of Thanksgiving with some of their children, and that's a problem. But if your family is making you feel bad, or you're making you feel odd because you're choosing, I don't want to come over and have a reunion with you guys, and they don't care. I don't know, but if they don't care to know and get to know you and wonder why you don't want to come, then that's their business. That's their problem. And if they don't want to reason with you about it, then say, look, to tell them, look, I'm here to talk about it, but I don't feel like I should be obligated to come and see you guys just because it's Christmas. I want to come and see you guys, make it next month. I'll take a 5-hour trip over to your state and I'll knock on your door. We can spend a day together. That spontaneity is great. And if they're Christian, they'll say, hey, you know what? Let's share a Bible verse or two. But it should not depend on, I gotta wait. As you were saying several times, I don't want to wait. I shouldn't have to wait. Sorry. That's absolutely right. You shouldn't have to wait for 3/4 of the year to go by before you see your family. And if you're busy on those days, I don't know if you didn't say you were busy on those days, but if you are busy on those days and you have a legitimate reason not to go to the reunions, then they need to try to understand. They need to try to accept it. You're their sister. You're their daughter. They are supposed to be family. They are supposed to say, you know what? We love you anyways. We'll make this happen. We'll make it work. Go ahead.
No, and I totally agree. I think it's the fact of it's a level of respect, and if they don't take the time to respect your wishes on that end, pray for God to open their eyes to and their hearts to you. And sometimes, what is it like? Almost like showing charity in a way, and what the word say, heap coals of fire on their head. Okay, you want me to show up to your shindig and what you got going on, but you won't come to mine. Well, maybe I'll miss, instead of me missing what you got going on, I'll show up and then I'm gonna convict you because I took out of my time to go ahead and come and see you. Now you should be able to take you out of your time to come and see me. A lot of times, families are very prideful, and it doesn't make it right, but it does happen. And unfortunately, sometimes those types of dynamics you have to kind of be patient with. Um, and then just explain to them how you feel, how that makes you feel when they ostracize you like that, how that makes you feel when they isolate you and say, okay, well, we want you to listen to what we have to say, but you can't listen, that you're forced to be obligated to do what they want to do.
And
So
if it's the other way around from what I pictured in my head, but rather, I think you just finished saying that they come over to your house to dine with you as a reunion. But if you don't want to have to wait for them to come around for those specific days, and if it's them who refuse to come and see you until Christmas and Thanksgiving, and
right, right.
they're looking at you as if you're the odd one for wanting to see them, because there's families out there who say you're weird if you want to spend more time with us. I don't know if that's your family, but that's a hurtful thing. That's a hurtful family too.
Let me put this in. Generally, my fam, and I'm gonna give you a with me. Just give you a look. My family is 4 of us. All of us are in different states except for my 2 sisters. But the thing about it is, I can relate to what you're doing, because unless it's a funeral, we don't see each other lately. So I can relate to you, Sister Holly. But listen, pray for them, love them, call them. That's basically the way I communicate. That's basically the way I communicate with my family now. The only one who really wants to have dealings with me are my little sister and little brother. My other sister, she won't call, she won't do anything. But she knows I love her. She knows it. So don't worry about it. You don't worry about it. You don't let it worry. You pray. And I know it's hurtful not to feel this ostracism.
Yeah, even at funerals in my family, same situation. Australia, we're states all over the place, but even then, not everybody gets together because, well, none of my family are Christian, save my folks and my sister. My brothers have turned their backs on God many years ago now. Think some of them might be suffering to come back, but anyway, you just struggle, and the isolation. Yeah, I guess we all feel it to a point.
Now, if it's a problem with resentment that they might have, I don't know. You're not saying these things, but another example of a family is that they might resent you if you do want them to come to a reunion. And now I'm not saying you are again, but maybe you're saying, well, maybe what's the point in honoring these days because my family and my children won't come to me. Maybe it's better they don't come to reunion because they're resenting me for making them come. I don't know if that's what your situation is. Then be the good sister or be the good daughter or be the good mother and say, you know what, we'll make this work. It doesn't have to be on those days, but we need to see each other. And by God, it'll happen. And pray to God again.
Yeah, well, my family is such that if something's going wrong, my parents will eventually find out about it by either of my siblings if they find out about it, and it's a case of, oh, it's a whole can of worms then.
I think I think it does come from resentments and past dealings from childhood, even growing up. Uh, it has to be that because otherwise there would be a little more closeness. The one thing that I can say, my family has a lot of family reunions on both sides, on both my father's and mother's side. You can't make them all, and plus they're expensive. But it is a way of getting with the family, and then you meet people from all over the country whom you never knew you was related to, and some of them turn out to be real cool. Some of them turn out to be a little standoffish. Bougie acting is how we would say it. Back me up there, Haitian QT. But the bottom line, Sister Holly, you have to satisfy Christ in whatever you do. And as for your family, like I said, all you can do is pray for them. Basically, that's all I can do right now. I talk to my mother twice a month. I talk to my sisters even less. And my brother, he's so busy. Right now he's at work, so I can't call him. He all the way in Arizona. They up in the suburbs of Detroit. My mother is downtown Detroit. She's the one person I can call. My children, they call me every week. I don't have no problem with them. They call me every week. But you have to do some things. And these are the things you're gonna have to do. Gonna have to try to let the hurt go, and I know it's gonna be hard. But resentment and bitterness is a bad boy that you cannot afford to let into your spirit. I know I'm speaking from experience. But do what you need to do. Make sure you're in good standing with God. But most of all, pray for your family and pray that y'all can get close again. That's what I'm doing for mine. I'm gonna yield on that.
You still there, Brian?
Yeah, I'm still here. I just sitting here listening.
You a fly on the wall, are you?
Yeah, I was just sitting back listening, kind of just sitting here watching TV and listening to y'all. And I mean, I always get together with the family during the holidays, but only because like normally it's when most everybody gets off and stuff like that. And then in the past 5 years I've been kind of working on the holidays, so some because the way my schedule flows, I have to work some holidays, don't have to work some holidays, but most time it's when most everybody's off, and this time everybody gets together, even though we get together sometimes different days. So I mean, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but I guess it's just to each his own. If you have a conviction about it, then keep going forward. Stand strong on your conviction. It's
Yeah.
for a reason.
So if your family doesn't come to you on those days and it makes you feel, I'm not saying it, but if this is a situation that you're going through, if your family doesn't come to your house and on those days, and you're like, well, why bother honoring the day? Then, like Sean said earlier, Christmas is not the actual day that Jesus was born. It's just the day that Christians have commemorated for the purpose of honoring his birth. So, and Easter, nobody actually knows the exact day of the month of April that he was crucified. We know roughly the right week, but we don't know the actual day. So if you want to be, again, legalistic, meaning to be anal about it, these are just excuses for Christians to use and Jews to reuse as fellowship or reasons to honor God and Jesus. Like if you look into the history of Christmas, there's a lot of demonology behind it. There's a lot of demonology behind it. In Europe, they actually on those days they actually believe that this dark, decrepit-looking, long-fingered creature is going to snatch your children up in the middle of the night. That's not just a horror movie. That's what they actually believe over in Holland. Another one was on Christmas Day. I think it was Yule, where they would actually the Christmas tree was originally out in the backyard of people's houses, and it was an idol worshiping a worship. It was an idol to worship a phallic or sexual god that eventually somebody at one point crucified somebody else to it in a fire. So it gets dark. So that's why Christians had to step in and stop these early churches from continuing these pagan worships on the 25th, and instead they changed it to being of peace and family and honoring Christ. It gets pretty sickening. But if that makes you feel any better about missing the day because the rest of your family doesn't want to bother, then honor it for your own sake. That's all I can say. Honor it in your own time. But don't let your family say, well, I'm not coming, so we're not doing it this year. Well, if you don't have a Christmas tree, that's not Christmas. Let me say that right. Say that right. A Christmas tree doesn't need to be erected in order for it to be Christmas. Jesus has to be remembered for it to be Christmas. So, what do you guys think about the that homosexual that we left off with on Cherry's room? Were you here for that, Jander?
Was I?
Oh, were you in the audience or?
Yeah, I was. I was in the chat for that one. I was laughing my head off at the guy though.
Okay.
I just find that sort of behavior, trying to say that lesbians and gays are somehow Christians, and they try and define it with the stuff. I just find that much easier to laugh it off than kind of. I want to say what I feel. It's wrong. I have a cousin who's a lesbian who is actually married since they actually passed a law in Australia. It's only been legal for about 6 or 7 months for homosexuals to actually marry. So we are one of the last countries to cotton on to the marriage side of things. But when the guy said he was single and looking for a man, I just wanted to laugh. Now, I'll yield with that.
Harry Knox is pretty crazy. That debate was actually probably one of the best Geno Jennings debates that I had watched. I had a situation where before I had my daughter, I worked at a photo studio called Glamour Shots. And while I was there, I had a client that came in, and before he came in, my supervisor and the store manager came in. We had a huge meeting expressing how the different isms we're supposed to use. You know,
And
you
Mr.
can't
Zach.
say he or she. Yeah, you can't say he or she. You have to say Z. And in his case, we have to be open to what um, his what the preferences are, because according to the way that we did things at Glamour Shots is people would come in and it's almost like you get to be a model for a day. So we'll do your hair and makeup, and then we'll take you to the studio, and then we'll take professional pictures, like if you're in front of a actual professional, well, it is a professional photographer. So there are a little bit more candid photos, things like that. We do a lot more different photos or broader spectrum of photos than your traditional Sears or J.C. Penney's type of photo lab studio type thing. But the way that when the guy came in, of course we have wardrobe, because we have three different wardrobe changes in a session. So when I was going through the wardrobes to write things down, this guy was wearing straight. I know Pastor Sean would understand what I'm saying when I say this, but like, like mother of the church suits, you know what I'm saying? I mean, with the hats and all, and it was crazy because this was a man, with pumps and everything. And when he came and got his hair and makeup done, and when he came into the studio part, of course, I did sales, so I was the last person that he saw. But when he came in the studio part, my supervisor was like, "Here, come look, come look." It was kind of funny because me and her were both Christian, and everybody else was kind of, either agnostic or were just atheists in themselves. So there was one day in particular. Well, the same session after he was finished with his session, he got into the back room in my office with me so that I could show him his pictures and then, sell him his package. And I took that time to kind of start to witness to him because that's just the way that I am. But in me talking to him, he made the statement that he was a pastor. No, he was a minister, and that his pastor was a lesbian woman. And I'm gonna be honest, it took me back for a minute. I was just like, wow, I'd never heard of that before. And he was adamant to let me hear his sermon that he had just did that Sunday. Of course, I'm avoiding him because another client that came in, so I'm like leaving him in my office to go ahead and check on the other client because I'm like, I got to get out of here. But it was funny how the society is making us, it's almost like they're force feeding us to accept these type of people. And if you make a stand to say, I am not for this, I do not agree with this, you can lose everything. And it's almost like a prequel to what's going to happen, in the tribulation time. If you don't agree with that type of lifestyle, you will get stripped from your jobs. You'll get stripped from anything, because you're making a stand against it. And there's people that's gotten arrested for hate crimes. You know what I'm saying? Because they're saying, okay, well, you're actually being racist to a gay person. And like Sister Cherry said, in my case, I'm African American. I woke up like this. You know what I'm saying? I came in here like this. This wasn't something that not necessarily, I mean, it wasn't something I chose. It wasn't something that was brought onto me. It wasn't something that I grew into. This was something I was born as. So for them to say that it's a sense of bigotry because we don't agree with it, that's kind of crazy. I don't subscribe to that rhetoric personally because I think that that's absolutely nuts. But it's like we're force fed through TV and you know different social media even to accept this type of junk. And it's like we have to deal with it, we have to accept it. And I mean, it's just the fact of taking a stand. Personally, I can't.
Yeah, and it really goes without saying, but two of my favorite medical drama shows now highlight the gay relationship, and they still have the heterosexual relationships in there, but they destroy the hetero relationships and they keep the homos the same. And they take it one step further in that there are episodes where they deal with gender reassignment surgery, and it's a whole nother ball game.
There's been a lot of battles, I guess. I wouldn't say call them arguments, but I'd call them battles about this, about the homosexual choice. Now, they would say there's not a choice, it's who you are, as if you're born with it. Well, to be precise with the Bible, and I'm not defending homosexuality at all, but the Bible gives examples of when it's being acted upon, when they're acting on their lusts, when they're practicing it. although I'll elaborate where Christ actually goes beyond. But say Leviticus chapter 18, when it says two men shall not lie together, that's the act of it. So essentially, a person is choosing to act upon what is in their mind to have an attraction. It's no longer just, you got a cute ass, excuse my language, but rather you end up buying a drink for that person and it goes somewhere else. That's a choice.
Right.
So, somebody who's at home being, who doesn't go out and interact with people, doesn't act on their perversion, is still a pervert and is still sinning against themselves. And that's in the Bible too. But homosexuality is more to do with the act of it. But you're still a homosexual even if you don't act on it. And God didn't actually make a person a homosexual. Rather, it is an actual chemical confusion. But where Jesus actually takes a step further, where they think that they're exempt from it, whereas if you so much as look at a woman or in general anybody with lust, you have committed adultery. Or if you're not even married, Jesus doesn't say this, but it continues essentially in the same mindset. If you're not married to that person, you're committing fornication, because you're lusting, meaning to covet that person. You're taking them mentally without their will, if you don't even act on it. So that goes further. If a gay person is not by God given in marriage to anybody but the opposite sex, then you are not given in marriage at all, and you are therefore in lust with the person or acting on lust with that person regardless, and it is fornication because you're not married. And it is still a sin. And if you physically do these things, whether regardless of what sex you are with the other person, it's still coveting, and that's one of the first sins. Thou shalt not covet. Go ahead.
And taking into consideration, it was just deemed not a mental illness until 1973. Prior to 1973, it was actually a full mental illness that was considered, a sense of, a psychosis prior to 1973. So, putting that in perspective, and then on top of that, there's a video. I don't know if Brother Remy, you would be open to playing videos on this live, but there is a scientist that actually had mentioned that there's different chemicals that has been put into our foods and into our water that unfortunately has a high level of estrogen in it, and different chemicals that actually, from the laboratory that he worked at, he said that they had tried it on lab rats at first, and to the point where those lab rats had not only, from ingesting those chemicals, had turned not only if you want to say we're doing homosexual acts to each other, but also were turning to hermaphrodites when they were bearing offspring. The male rats were beginning to grow mammary glands and breasts, and there was female rats that were growing phalluses, etc. So it's more to, it's almost like a sense of chemical castration that's being done to the masses through a lot of poisoning, toxic waste that's been poured out in different places. So with it being those types of things that has to go into it, plus it being, I believe it still is a mental illness personally. It does, which doesn't help. I think that there is a sense of there is a conversation there, but as far as allowing, it's almost like someone that's schizophrenic. You're letting them be schizophrenic and saying it's okay to be schizophrenic, or someone that is, uh, what is it? What the people that cut themselves, manic depressant, or
Self-harm.
what is it? Yeah, that it's okay for them to be that way, and they're cutting themselves, or
Yeah,
they're
and there's
a
no joy.
sociopath, or homicidal. It's okay for you to kill somebody because you're homicidal. It's all right. We'll let that be we'll pass that law that it's okay for you to kill somebody because you're homicidal, like
Oh,
things like
pedophile.
that. That's basically what we're dealing with.
As I think down through the years, I think the first time I ever really saw someone acting out a gay lifestyle was a show, old show. If you remember the show Soap,
No, I don't remember that one.
okay. Well,
Beyond my years too, I think.
it was a sitcom, Soap.
Hmm.
Um, what is his name? He's a famous comedian and he's a comedic actor. Um, he could do Muhammad Ali and he was Jewish. So what? Can't think of his name uh, right now. But he played a homosexual, and he was in love with a tennis pro played by one of the greatest Olympians who ever Bob. Can't think of his last name either right now. But the show was called Soap. It gave us Benson. Not everybody will remember that show. Well, he played this character called Jody. Jody was openly gay, but the one thing about him, he wound up getting with this young lady, got her pregnant, and was about to marry her. And then he wanted to then he became a. He said, "Nah, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gay." Then he followed the the mother, the woman when he got pregnant, takes off with his daughter, told he'd never see the daughter, and he falls in love with the PI, having to be a woman, and then because of all the confusion going on, he becomes an old Jewish man in his mind, singing Haganaga. But because his mind was so, he wasn't really gay in real life, but he played the gay character until they had to make it in the last season. He didn't know who he was because his mind was spent, was wrong. So yes, it definitely does something to the mind. It's still, don't care what APA says, it's still a mental disorder.
Yeah, this whole transgender movement, the proper psychological term is gender dysphoria, and apparently the transgender or LGBT community wants to ban that term because it dismisses the qualification of their insanity. It no longer, if you use that term, they lose their attention, they lose their apparently, as if you need rights to be deluded. But anyways, but they're afraid that if you use a medical term against them, then that it takes away from their quality of life. Now, Built for Speed was talking in the chat along with you there, brother Sean. But he was, but I'll go back when he was actually talking alongside with you, Sister Haitian. He was talking about the experiments, and he was saying that it sounds more like a form of depopulation.
It was actually geared. That was the main point. Are you open to playing videos on this
Yeah,
hangout?
I just want to get one thing really quickly though.
Yeah, sure. While you're doing that, I'm gonna look for the video real fast.
Yeah. Okay. But Built for Speed continues, and I'll elaborate. He says there's a video called Mafa 21 illustrates the true origins of Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. I'm not sure I think that's the same woman I'm thinking about, who actually was. She was, like, militant.
She was an openly racist woman who wanted to kill all black folk off.
Yeah, and so who's the majority of people who are getting abortions? Black women, the majority. Not it's like that. This, I don't know. It's just over 50 or something like that. It's sickening, and yet the originator of this corporation hated black people. I don't know if I don't know. I didn't really study enough, but I don't know. Maybe since you already knew where that was going. Was she in the KKK or something?
No, I don't think she was in the KKK, but she was. I don't even think they would let her in because of the sound of her last name, Sanger. But I know she was an openly racist woman against black people. She started this Planned Parenthood to kill off black people, just like the CIA did with MK Ultra. You talk about chemicals,
LSD,
MK Ultra, and all these other things that they have put into the system, and it has gone into our food. But what they never think about is it gets back to them. Like the crack epidemic of the 80s is now the opioid addiction of the 2010s, and so it's got a way of something. They made crack cocaine a more lethal, and I'm gonna say they use the term lethal because for a lethal sentence than powdered cocaine. You got jailed for 1 or 2 years for cocaine, powdered cocaine, but you got 10, 15 years for crack cocaine. But this opioid addiction that's going throughout the United States, I don't know if it's in Canada or not.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
No, these people need rehabilitation and education, and they need all these need to go, and we need to open up free rehab clinics for them. Why didn't they do that in the 80s?
Right.
Actually, apparently, I'm pretty sure it's in France. I'm pretty sure it's in France that they've actually opened up the world's first open narcotic clinic where you can actually go in and get injected, supported by their government.
Injected with drugs?
Yep.
What?
Yeah. That's what I saw. I was watching a video and they actually showed the building. They showed the counters, and the counters had the tensor elastics on them, and it's like, okay.
Wow.
All right, so you said skip
Wow.
to 1:55.
Yeah, go about 1 minute and 50 seconds. It's 50 seconds in.
It's
1 minute and 50 seconds in.
like
Yeah.
threading the needle. Give me a sec here.
No sweat. Yeah, this scientist we're about to see, he basically put it out there that he's the whistleblower. We'll say it like that.
All right, got to switch my mic over.
No sweat.
Oops.
California, Berkeley, joining us from the campus TV station right now in Berkeley. Welcome to Democracy Now! Can you tell us what happened to you, how you were originally tied to Syngenta, the research you did, and what prevented you from originally publishing it?
Well, here at Berkeley, I was a new assistant professor. I was already studying the effects of hormones and the effects of chemicals that interfere with hormones on amphibian development. And I was approached by the manufacturer and asked to study the effects of atrazine, the herbicide, on frogs. And after I discovered that it interfered with male development and caused males to turn into females to develop eggs, the company tried to prevent me from publishing and from discussing that work with other scientists outside of their panel.
What was the process within the company as you raised your findings? What was their immediate reaction to what you had come across?
Well, initially they seemed sort of supportive. We designed more studies, we designed more analysis, and they encouraged me to do more analysis. But as the further analysis just supported the original finding, they became less interested in moving forward very quickly. And eventually they moved to asking me to manipulate data or to misrepresent data. And ultimately they told me I could not publish or could not talk about the data outside of their closed panel.
And Professor Hayes, talk about exactly what you found. What were the abnormalities you found in frogs, the gender-bending nature of this drug, atrazine?
Well, initially we found that the larynx or the voice box in exposed males didn't grow properly. And this was an indication that the male hormone testosterone was not being produced at appropriate levels. And eventually we found that not only were these males demasculinized or chemically castrated, but they also were starting to develop ovaries or starting to develop eggs. And eventually we discovered that these males didn't breed properly, that some of the males actually completely turned into females. So we had genetic males that were laying eggs and reproducing as females. And now we're starting to show that some of these males actually show, I guess, what we call homosexual behavior. They actually prefer to mate with other males. And so where did you go with your research? Well, eventually what happened was the EPA insisted that the Environmental Protection Agency insisted that the manufacturer release me from the confidentiality contract. And we published our findings in pretty high-ranking journals such as Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. We published some work in Nature. We published work in Environmental Health Perspectives, which is a journal sponsored by the National Institutes of Health.
And when did you begin to get a sense that the company was organizing a campaign against you? What were the signs that you saw post the period when you published your findings?
Before we published the findings and before the EPA became involved, the company tried to purchase the data. They tried to give me a new contract so that they would then control the data and the experiments. They actually tried to get me to come and visit the company to get control of those data. And when I refused, I invited them to the university. I offered to share data, but they wanted to purchase the data. And then they actually, as mentioned in a New York article, they actually hired scientists to try to refute the data or to pick apart the data. And eventually they hired scientists to do experiments that they claim refuted our data. And then that escalated to the company, actually, Tim Pasteur in particular, and others from the company coming to presentations or lectures that I was giving to make handouts or to stand up and refute the data. And eventually even led to things like threats of violence. Tim Pasteur, for example, before I would give a talk, would literally threaten, whisper in my ear that he could have me lynched, or he would quote said he would send some of his good old boys to show me what it's like to be gay. Or at one point he threatened my wife and my daughter with sexual violence. He would whisper things like, "Your wife's at home alone right now. How do you know I haven't sent somebody there to take care of her? Isn't your daughter there?" So eventually it really slipped into some, pretty scary tactics.
So what did you do? I mean, this is very serious. You could bring criminal charges if you're being threatened and stalked in this way.
Well, initially I went to my vice chancellor here at the university. I went to my dean. I went to legal counsel.
Right. So now you see that there's the chemical atrazine is what he's talking about. That chemical is what has been sprayed on our produce. It's been put in our water. And unfortunately, even though this whistleblower came out and said, this is what's going on, it's still being spread. It's still happening to this day. So instead of it being that there's been a decrease in the stuff, it's been a huge increase in the stuff to the point where now it's actually, like he said, chemically castrating our children, our families. And unfortunately, it's to the point where now we're dealing with now this boom of people saying, okay, well, yeah, it's okay for you to be gay, but they're not realizing that this is a chemical imbalance that's happening in the brain that's making these children be born this way. If you were to give the rhetoric of "I was born this way," or it's pretty deep. This stuff is pretty deep, honestly.
But the key problem there, though, is that it's engineered. It's intelligent manipulation. It's not natural.
Absolutely.
It's not like these frogs ate a specific type of minnow, and those minnows themselves ate a certain type of kelp or algae that had, an abundance of estrogen. That's not happening. Right. They're specifically playing around with these frogs and increasing. Right. Now, in order for humans to say it's natural and you're actually born this way, you'd have to actually go to a tribe out there that hasn't been introduced to homogenized food. It hasn't been introduced to genetically altered food whatsoever. Doesn't eat American or Chinese food, just eats their own food, and see that if they are turning gay, and I guarantee you they are not. South American tribes, they're still straight and they're mating like bunnies. African tribes, they're still straight, mating like bunnies. And I don't think there's anything in Russia, but I don't think there's anything in Mongolia. But if there were, guess what? They're not turning gay. I don't know about the Eskimos. There's some jokes about the Eskimos or the Inuit. Sorry. Those because they still have their tribes up there, and they're natural. They're all natural as well. But again, though, they're not being manipulated into a specific, like soybean. They're not eating, something that's overflowing with estrogen. They're eating fish. They're eating corn. They're eating wheat.
Yeah, but those are the very products that this stuff is used on.
Mm-hmm.
Now
I know why Alex Jones said they're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah, well, I looked it up because they've actually used it in Australia too on sugarcane. So I don't know if I'm going to buy sugar anymore.
That'd be a really bad withdrawal if you stopped on sugar, brother.
Just watch where I get it.
Yeah. So, Sean, you texted saying that Margaret had at least a history of making a presentation in front of a clan at some point. That's interesting. So, anyways, it's still. Sorry, go ahead.
Just for the record, I was going to say it's Billy Crystal who was in that TV show.
Soap?
Yes.
I'm sure I've probably heard the name. Just
Princess Bride. Probably had a small part in that. I don't know. I got to think about the other things, but yeah, he's pretty City Slickers.
No, I know Billy Crystal. I'm just saying it like I don't know the show.
Oh yeah, I didn't know it either, so I have to look it up.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to go looking for it.
Now it's not a soap opera, and it wasn't a sitcom, but back in the 80s, maybe it was reruns, but I swear, when I was a little kid, about 6 to 8 years old, again, it wasn't a sitcom and it wasn't a soap opera, but it played something like a soap opera, but the cameraman was... It's like, it's like the old game, gotcha, the mystery where, you kill somebody, lights turn out. This show, the cameraman was a murderer, and all you could see was the point of view from the cameraman, and you'd see these people talking like a soap opera, and then somebody died. And I'm like, that's a weird show. I think it only had one season.
Any wonder?
Must have been a comedy. Now that I'm looking at it in my head, I'm like, I'd probably laugh at that today.
You probably would, because Game of Thrones, for example, has softened a lot of people.
Oh gosh, I won't watch that show anymore.
No,
it's a gratified blood porno.
We tried to watch it at a video night once at a bunch of guys from church. We got halfway. Didn't even get even 15 minutes into it. We were going, "Nah, we're off. Next movie, please."
Yep. Well, I watched 3 seasons of it and hoping it would get better, and it's as bad as The Walking Dead. There's nobody left that I care about. I don't want to watch it anymore.
Yeah,
they're just killing everybody. I could have saved myself days worth of viewing if I knew everybody's gonna die. It's just drop
This is why I binge watch Luke Cage, Iron Fist, stuff like that.
Yeah. Although I really wanted to enjoy Black Lightning, but something about the villains, the villains have to be pushing this racist agenda. Black Lightning, the guy, the principal himself, great character, and I love his family, except for the fact that his oldest daughter is gay. But anyways, great show,
gay agenda.
great show. But I don't know, I just couldn't get into it.
I wonder why when I watched Luke Cage, Jessica, Defenders, none of that shows like gay type of thing going on.
Well, Jessica Jones, I think, had a bit of an element to it, but they didn't focus on it though.
No, see,
yeah,
Modern Family.
Focus on her and Luke. That's all. Maybe got to get going. But see, I'm an old comic book fan, so I already know.
Yep.
Where they got to go with that?
Mom pointed out though that the big boss man in the first season of Black Lightning was actually an albino black man, and I'm like, how do you? I'm trying, and as soon as she said that, I'm looking at him. I'm like,
you watched that?
I'm like, I guess. I'm looking at him again. I don't know.
The shows I watch don't have the gay agenda.
No, thank gosh.
No. But I watched. I've been a wrestling fan for years, and they haven't had the real gay agenda. now lately,
Mhm.
but lately, I like Lucha Underground.
Never
My
heard that
favorite
one.
round, Lucha El Rey Network.
Is that like the WWE, or is that an actual story-driven show?
It's a story-driven show.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up.
They got this guy on there called Exolicious.
Mhm.
This dude then had butt implants and twerking. Blonde hair.
Come on.
No,
Come on.
no,
I promise you.
you
I
can't.
promise.
You can't get it. You can't get in the ring and start shaking it. No. Oh, see,
I promise. I said, what in the world?
that's why I never actually watched the divas on WWE. Honestly, I never watched them because it was pathetic. It's just disgusting.
You lost me at twerking.
Yeah. Built for Speed. You said that the CW has a gay
That
agenda.
just happened. That just happened this season. Wasn't nobody doing that the seasons before.
Oh, good. But yeah, the CW definitely does. I don't watch. I refuse to watch Supergirl. I watched 5 minutes of it once. I'm not watching it ever again.
Oh, slow down. They done made Supergirl lesbian now.
No, I don't. No, not Supergirl herself, but her best friend. Yeah, Supergirl was like the maid of honor, and I'm like, oh, so who's she getting married to? And then the mother, and then the girl's mother's mother was there at the table, and like, and she's like, oh, well, you two are gonna. I'm like, oh, that does it for me. I'm done.
I see. It all depends on who the writers are.
Yep.
That's what's making who the writers are.
Yeah.
It's pushing the equality across the circuit again.
Yeah. Did y'all see y'all saw Black Panther, didn't y'all? The movie.
I never did, but I watched Infinity War though.
Okay, you gotta watch Black. Well, okay, you remember the bald woman?
Yep.
Yeah, that's Michonne.
In the comics, she's a lesbian, but in the movie, she wasn't.
Was that Michonne? Is that Michonne from Walking
Yeah.
Dead? I like her.
That's her.
Yeah, I liked her on The Walking Dead. She was. I didn't like her at first, but she grew on me. But yeah, she's an interesting character in the Black Panther. I'll have to say that. A little bit of
Black Panther is good.
I gotta give it.
Yeah, she's definitely got something going for her. She's petite, but she's got it going. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that Black Panther is a pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. It's a real good movie. I've watched it a couple times. There's just there's something going on. Somebody wrote something into it. It's kind of, I don't know. It's got some things going on in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that Yoruba religion going on in it. I'll tell you that now.
It's got witchcraft in it.
It comes from Yoruba.
Yeah, you drink your grape juice. You drink that grape juice, and we'll cast a spell on you. It's witchcraft.
Yeah. They got. I did a little research a few weeks ago on the Yoruba religion itself. It's a trip. When you look at Black Panther and he meets his father in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the afterlife.
That's all Yoruba religion. Okay. Asian Cutie will back me up on a little bit of that because we talked about
that's exactly what that is. That they go when they pass on, they believe that they're going to be with their ancestors.
Now, what bothers me though, because I've seen enough reviews where they play clips of the movie. I've seen enough of it to practically have seen the whole thing though. It doesn't make sense to me. From even like I got the appreciation for like these honor cultures like China, and so to speak, and Africa, when it comes down to it. But their culture in this movie showed that once you are chosen by this spirit of the ancestors, you are now their avatar in the real world to possess their strength and their speed, their agility and their reflex. And somehow T'Challa loses. I'm sorry, but if they've chosen then this made up God, but apparently in this story they're an actual God. Did they make a mistake? No. It actually belongs to your brother. It didn't make sense to me. How did he lose it? If they chose, that spirit in the tree said, "You will be our chosen one."
Birthright.
Yeah,
it was the birthright. It was Killmonger's birthright to be king.
Oh, okay. That's the part I was missing.
Right.
But still, T'Challa was actually chosen before it with the ceremony, and then Killmonger came in. So,
but you just weren't made king. You had to fight for it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
He had to fight for it. See, that's why you had to watch the movie.
No, I saw the fight scene. There's people.
No, both of them.
They had a full ritual for them to be able to be crowned king.
Yeah, he has to go meet with his ancestors. First, and then he comes back, and then he has to fight whoever challenges him. Like Mayonnaise challenged him. That's who the character was.
Well, if it's on Netflix, I'll make a plan of watching it, I guess.
It's on Netflix.
Oh, no, yeah. That's a good movie. Canadian Netflix sometimes doesn't have the same stuff. So.
It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was a real good movie.
It was a great movie. Great.
Mind you, I was embarrassed because my mom really likes watching all the Avengers movies, and I forgot to watch Thor Ragnarok with her because that was to get the proper chronology, and so instead I forgot about it, and so I just. I turned Netflix on, and they had Infinity War Part 1 on, so I started watching that. She's like, "What happened here? How did that happen? Why did?" I'm like, "Oh shoot, you didn't watch Thor." So, and so I was like, "Oh, Black Panther part's coming up," because I watched it in theaters months ago.
Yeah, Black Panther.
I'm like, Black Panther's coming up, and she doesn't know who that is, and I'm like, uh oh. Well, no, he did make an appearance in Captain America.
Anyways. But that was because T'Chaka got killed.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah,
but you got to. Well, Black Panther 2 is gonna be coming out next year, so.
I am not looking forward at all. I'm like a lot of the. Comic book world, I'm gonna boycott Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. What are they doing with Captain Marvel? I haven't heard anything yet.
Well, aside from the fact that she's stone-faced, she has no emotion so far throughout the entire trailer. None. Not one single smile, not a smirk, not a frown, not a snarl, not a snithe, nothing.
Carol Danvers has none of these effects going on in her.
Yeah, but in the comics, she was known to show affection. She was known to show happiness. She was known to show faces of relief.
That's even in the cartoons.
Yeah, she was. I remember the one cartoon where she woke up to find out that Rogue had stolen her powers, and she got angry. She ran right. I'm like, okay, let's never really take her off.
Yeah. Marvel Universe. Everybody.
Yeah.
I'm,
But the other problem though, the other problem with Captain Marvel is that they're implying, it's not confirmed, but they're implying that she's going to come and find Thanos and kill him. Where it took 10 or more guys and women to get to scratch his cheek, and and apparently they're implying that she's going to come and kill him. And yet Hulk couldn't even do that. It's like, yeah, she's going to be the savior of the day. It's like, it's not going to be a team effort. Thor has blood right to kill Thanos, but they're implying that she's just going to come and wallop him. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like the crew who are making the movie Captain Marvel, they're saying, well, everybody's sexist. No, the majority of people who are boycotting your next movie actually went to go and see Wonder Woman and loved it. So no.
I thought you were talking about Shazam, Captain Marvel.
Oh, no. That's his old name. Apparently he's just called Shazam now.
I tell you, I'm dating myself.
No, you're not alone. You're not alone. A lot of people thought that he was Captain Marvel. Because he used to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, who's doing because I heard that the new Justice League movie you don't want to go see. That's what I heard. But it was horrible.
Justice League has its moments, that just like Batman versus Superman, it has its moments. It has its grace. But
I saw that.
They definitely, were grabbing at too much to throw into a 2-hour period. Way too much.
That's all.
They were where Marvel has been drawing a line of gunpowder. Justice League tried to grab a whole stick of dynamite. So
yeah.
That's why so far the best movie of the Justice League is Wonder Woman.
I'm waiting on that. I'm just gonna wait and see. I want to see.
Apparently, Bill for Speed is saying, wait for Sean to start talking about Sigmund and the sea monsters. If you're talking about,
he would have been better saying HR Puffin stuff.
Oh gosh, that's nightmare fuel. That's nightmare fuel. Oh gosh, I'm not gonna go to sleep now.
That Bill for Speed. I can't stop laughing.
I hope you know I had to Google that. I didn't know what y'all talking about.
Oh my God.
And yet children in the 70s used to watch this stuff. I'm like, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, but kids in the 70s used to watch Roger Ramjet, so.
Oh, there was one that my mom grew up with in the 60s. What was it? The Rocket XLR or something like that, where there's all these marionette dolls.
I have no idea. That's Sid. That's probably one of the first Sid and Marty Krofft creations.
Yeah, there was they made a few of them, and there was all these. Anybody who's listening to this and don't know what I'm talking about, a marionette doll is a puppet on a string made of wood and plastic, and depends on what age you start watching it. It looks innocent, it looks fun, whatever. But after a while, it just looks kind of freaky because they're not walking, they're dancing across the screen.
See, I gotta admit, I see. I used to watch Dr. Shrinker.
I have to look it up. I think maybe it's Fire or something.
I used to watch Dr. Shrinker, Electric Woman and Diner Girl. That was all from the world of Sid and Marty Krofft.
Fireball XL5. That's the name of the show I was thinking about with the marionette dolls. Fireball XL5.
It couldn't be any worse than Space Ghost. Space Ghost was the worst cartoon I ever seen.
I've seen little clips of him. That's
Space Ghost. No.
Yeah, I grew up watching Hercules, the cartoon. He took his little ring out of his belt, and then
I remember that. I remember the Samson.
Yep. And then there was Rocket Robin Hood. That was fun.
I remember that one.
Yep.
And then there, of course, who was the first Transformer? I'm gonna test somebody now. Let's see. The lions and the cars. That's all I'm gonna say.
Electro and Dinah Girl was off the hook. Okay, I don't know who Electro Woman was. Sounds familiar though.
The woman who played Electro Woman became a famous soap opera star.
Is that back in the age of Linda, what's her name, playing as Wonder Woman?
Before.
Yeah. Oh wow. Before that.
Just before. Like maybe a year or two.
You know, like I was born in the 80s, but I grew up on reruns from the 60s. So
okay.
Yeah.
You'll be watching the Banana Splits and the Archers next, y'all.
Baby 90s kid.
Yeah, like I'll tell my mom, yeah, I used to watch Leave It to Beaver. She's like, Leave It to Beaver's from my age. And I'm like, I don't know. It used to be on when I was a kid.
In the reruns, yes, it was.
Yep.
Like Ultraman and
that still comes
on his flying robot.
TBS used to play all them reruns, especially during the 80s.
Uh-huh.
You know, Bewitched and Flintstones and Little House on the Prairie and all them shows that used to come on.
I love Flintstones.
Built for Speed is showing his age. Johnny Soko and the Giant Robot.
That's a cool show. Johnny Sacco.
I don't know about that one.
They were Japanese, just like Ultraman was.
Yeah.
Remember Johnny Quest? That's a good cartoon.
Johnny Quest is the longest running cartoon there is.
It was a good cartoon.
The oldest anime I ever watched, as far as I can remember, the oldest anime was Astro Boy, or the Mighty Atom. Is what his Japanese name was.
Yeah, Astro Boy was a good one. My earliest cartoon that I've seen was, earliest show that I saw that was for kids was, let's see. You had Adam West, Batman. That used to be the show.
Yeah.
And then the original Ninja Turtles. That was a good one. And then you had G.I. Joe. That used to be awesome. Rocky and Bullwinkle went hard.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. And I still love Schoolhouse Rock. The songs from Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes. Schoolhouse Rock was amazing. I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol. Yeah. That used to be my jam.
The Schoolhouse
Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget. Who in the World is Carmen Sandiego? That was another good one.
Inspector Gadget was built on, was it the Man from U.N.C.L.E.? Or was it Get Smart? One of the.
Get Smart. It was Maxwell Smart was the voice of his Gadget.
Yeah, and so it was based on that one because You know, you're talking into his shoe and all this stuff. Yeah.
Mr.
They actually had songs in the 80s that used that Inspector Gadget beat.
Yeah, everywhere through Gadget, there was an orchestra that the Gadget tune was playing the orchestra tune of Gadget. Yep.
Dougie Fresh, the show. It's the most famous one I could think of.
Yeah, and then there was say Heathcliff and Garfield.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but the Transformers was Japanese, and so was Voltron. That's one.
Voltron.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
That's the one I was saying. That's the one I was talking about. The lions and the cars.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. I don't know
and
why. I don't know why I didn't pick up on that, because I used to watch Voltron almost religiously. That and Thundercats and what have you. Yeah.
Thundercats.
Me too. Thundercats was off the jam.
Thundercats.
Talking about Voltron though, Netflix. I don't know if they're still doing it, but Netflix came out with their own Voltron series, and they made what's the little green the guy who wears green the little smarty pants with the glasses. They made him into a girl in the Netflix version. And so I found a YouTube video where people were talking about it, and people are saying, "Oh, it was always a girl." I actually went and found the first episode ever of English dubbed episode of Voltron on YouTube. And what does the hotshot pilot of Voltron say before they're even Voltron? This is before they even get on their lions. That the guy who wears green with the glasses, he's out in the field being shot at by these ships. He's by the
prince.
Yeah, and he's just out there. He doesn't have any armor on. He's just hiding behind a rock. And the hotshot, who's still in the castle, says, "Oh, poor guy." And I'm like, "See, it's a guy." But people are like, no, it's a girl. I'm like, "Oh, it's a guy. It's a boy." Later on, later generations, they did have the princess join them. But anyways, that's a different story.
Yeah, my memory's gone to Voltron. I used to watch that religiously too.
Yeah, but I thought you said Ultron, or Ultraman. Sorry, because Ultraman was Japanese as well. That was kind of like Godzilla, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he used to throw lightning from his hand.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I never watched a single episode, but I remember the first time I ever even heard of him back in 1990. I was like, "Oh, it's so cool!" And they're like, "Well, I got his VHS here for $30," and I'm like, I only came here as I was only about 11 years old. I was still living on my allowance.
But Ultraman was the 60s also.
Yeah.
Ultraman came out in the 60s, but I didn't know it because as a little boy growing up, I thought these were all new.
Yeah,
my dad said, "Nah, boy, that was going."
But instead of Ultraman, we had Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. So
Mr.
That was the best Hulk.
Yep.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I like it. I still like it when Hulk talk though.
Yeah, it's like, "You're just a janitor. What do you know?" And they go and did their thing again. It's like, it's like, yeah, that janitor's gonna get mean.
Especially when you start hitting them. Bill Bixby would take the beating, and the Hulk will come back and beat everybody. Oh, Jesus.
Yep. And it took me a long time to realize that Andy Griffith was Matlock. I did not know that for the longest time.
What?
Yeah. And
I wouldn't watch Matlock because I was too busy watching something else. I watched whatever my grandmother watched.
Yeah, it's either Matlock or people were watching either Matlock or Murder, She Wrote. It was essentially the same.
Don't forget, In the Heat of the Night. Everybody watched that.
Oh yeah, Archie Carol as Archie Bunker Put on the sheriff's hat.
And the Southern accent, because he's straight from the Bronx, New York.
That was a good show, man.
They call me Mr. Tibbs. And I'm like, okay.
Sound like Sidney Poitier.
Yeah, that was a good one. But I used to watch Matlock. My grandmother and them used to watch Matlock every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, you was over my grandmother's house. You ain't had no choice.
Yeah. And you watch the soap operas too. Whoa.
You ain't lying.
You be over there looking and trying to. You be over there looking and going, "What's going on? What's happening?"
He was and all that.
Young and the Restless, General Hospital.
Sorry,
Young and the Restless still going.
I thought you were going to say that.
Mine was all. They had All My Children, One Life to Live, and the General Hospital would come on. Then Oprah would come on. The TV was not moving for 4 hours.
That's right. And you bet not touch it either.
Yeah.
Try. You come back with a.
Some grandmas would tell their kids get outside, play ball or something. Other grandmas be like, "Nope, you're sitting down. I'm not going anywhere. We're watching TV." It's like,
And from 12:30 to 5 o'clock, you stuck. And I'm like,
I want to go home. I'll babysit myself.
unless you want something to eat. They want something to eat. That got you out the living room, away from the TV. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Go in there, make you a sandwich. Get you a glass of milk. Sit down. Don't touch nothing else in my refrigerator.
Yeah, it was always 1% skimmed milk in my grandma's place, and it was god awful. But eventually, I was so thirsty, I didn't care. I'm drinking it.
My grandma got that good milk. It was in a bottle.
Oh yeah, my mom.
In my case, my grandmother still to this day doesn't speak English, and she would still watch Young and the Restless and One Life to Live and all of them. And you still bet not touch the dial, or it's going to be a problem. And she didn't understand anything they were saying. You bet not touch that remote. Oh, it's hilarious. And she's still the same way.
She do the Eddie Murphy, take off her shoe, and wherever you were, she knew where you were. She take off her shoe. Like if Eddie Murphy didn't cuss so much and wasn't so profane, I'd watch more of his comedies. He was funny. But
that's why I watch Boomerang.
Yeah.
To this day, that's still his funniest movie to me. Next to the one with the late Red Fox. That was
No, Coming to America, hands down.
Nah, it's got to be the one with him and Red Fox and Della Reese. The Della Reese whoops.
I'll still watch Coming to America.
I think I've only watched
movie.
I'll still watch Coming to America.
I've never actually.
Yeah, I'll repeat.
man, if it come on right now, that one and what is it? Life. Man, I watch that one all the time. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
I still like. Oh God, what is Boomerang? Boomerang was funny, but that one with Fred Sanford, and he put them glasses on at the crap. Put your glasses on, cause look, you got Red Fox, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall. Quick! I'm gonna kill you. Quit shooting that little piece of. He got Tommy gun do. I like to put that thing away. Ain't doing no good.
Come on.
The only Richard Pryor movie I remember, and the only one I think I could probably tolerate now is the Monty's Millions, was it? Or Brewster's Millions, yeah.
That's the one with Cicely Tyson. No, it ain't.
That was a interesting one when I was a kid. Because I was like, he's got $6 million to spend? Whoa. And then you learn he's got to spend it in a week or something like that so he can get $60 million. And I'm like, okay. That's crazy.
Well, easily done this today.
Sorry, what was that?
Easily done today, but not so much easier back then, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean.
Well, inflation, probably by inflation, it's probably worth 16 million now. So.
All right.
Oh yeah, those are some classics. I think, but Coming to America and The Color Purple are my two favorite movies, hands down.
I can't stand The Color Purple.
I can't.
Only reason why I like The Color Purple is
one part of that whole movie.
Yeah,
what's that?
I can't watch Color Purple.
Thank God is trying to tell you something.
Yes,
that's the only part of the movie I like.
Yeah. I was
the
just
part in the movie where.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just watching that the other day, actually.
My favorite part of the whole movie, and it was a little clip. It was when good night, Brother Brian. But my favorite part of the whole movie was whenever what's her name was about Miss Sophia was about to beat up Squeak, and she said, "Hoppo, you said this here Ajuk joint," and then she slapped Miss Sophia. And the piano player shut everything down, talking about whoop, time to go. When he said, whoop, time to go, that part has me crying every time. I would be in tears in here. I'm gonna be cracking up. He said, whoop, time to go.
I've been binge watching Highlander all night.
Which, the movies or the TV shows?
The TV show.
Yeah, there was the Highlander series with Duncan, and then there was the
Crow.
Connor
was the original, and then Duncan.
Yeah, then there was the Crow after Duncan.
Yeah, but then they made a movie where they all came together again, and Duncan takes Connor's head so he can kill off the dude who played the Warlock.
Or was it the Raven? Maybe it was the Raven.
It's the Raven.
Yeah,
the Raven.
Blonde chick. It was okay. It was okay. It was okay. It just, I don't know.
I still say Duncan. I said with Duncan, and they'll have to take out dude.
There's a major inconsistency. Well, maybe not major, but there's a big inconsistency between the movies where Duncan MacLeod's movie and the Connor MacLeod's movie series, where Duncan in his movie says that he had never actually met Connor, but he's an inspiration, and then in the official Highlander Part 4, the end game, they're both together saying, remember the time, and I'm like, you guys never met.
In the pilot for the TV series, Connor was there. In fact, Connor was there for the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah, but I could have sworn in the Duncan MacLeod movie he said that he never met him.
That's true.
Okay.
Because you got to remember the one with Mario Van Peebles. That's a trip. He didn't just cut his head off. He cut him down half, straight down his body.
I remember that. And they played Dr. Feelgood in the background. That was fun. I was like, where have I heard that song before? And they're running after it. They're running after each other in the steel mill or whatever it is. And I'm like, I'm trying to watch the fight. And I'm like, what's that song?
And I'm mad not to try to remember it. I'm done. Oh my God. Y'all got me over here in tears. I'm laughing too hard. I can't. I needed that laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I needed it because this was a stressful day. I had the boss calling me so much about one thing, and I said, it's already taken care of.
Well, look
No,
at
it's not. I said, I'm looking at this. I said, it's already taken care of. No, I'm not. It called me about 20 times.
Yeah,
and I said, wait a minute. Call up there. The number's on there on the email. Call them. You were right. I said, why did you argue with me until 3 o'clock this afternoon?
See. It's terrible. Don't let him try you, Pastor Sean.
It didn't. It was a trip because I said I had a headache now. I turned on. I promise you, when I got off the phone with him, I turned on. What's his name? I turned on a bunch of Cisco so I could laugh. So I could laugh. Get rid of it.
Hilarious.
I did. I had to.
Well, brother,
Promise you. I'm going to bed. I gotta get
I'm
up.
just about to say that.
Yeah,
I love you all.
Yeah, you just read my mind. I was going to say it's 11 o'clock here. It's time to get off.
I enjoyed you guys. Brother Bill, you know you my brother from another mother. Sister Holly, I love you. I love you all. Pastor Sean, Brother Andrew, Brother Remy, Brother Brian. Y'all have made my evening wonderful. We've got to do this again, Brother Remy, for sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Y'all have a good night. I'm going to head on out.
Yeah, you too. I'm heading out too. Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night, Andrew.
Night out.